It is 7:01. I'm going to call the meeting of the March 15th Board of Trustees to order. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bartholomew.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Fowler is absent. Hart.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Poznansky.
Here.
President Malzahn.
Here.
6 present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. We have number 3 on our agenda, our consent agenda. This is something new under our rules of procedure, so this will be the first time trying it out. But in the consent agenda, we have the approval of the minutes, bills, and the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Yes.
We have support.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Hart. We have support by Edwards. Is there any discussion?
I have corrections for the minutes that I would like to talk about.
Okay. So you'd like to pull the minutes out? Okay. So then we will approve the agenda and the bills. The bills, just for the record, with the check register report, is $225,289.09. And the other one is $47,776.32. So can you call the roll on that, please, Catherine?
Hart.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Bartholomew.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
Poznansky.
Yes.
President Malzahn.
Yes.
6-0.
So we had some questions on the minutes. Megan, what do you need to fix?
At the regular scheduled for February 16th. So under number 4, we have with the addition of 2 items under new business. And when you go back to the 3rd page, they are not here. We said with the addition of H and I, but it stops at G. So we need to get the marijuana business license discussion in there and the President Pro Tem discussion in the minutes.
Okay.
And just that the other ones are
So
fine.
they'll just read no board action was taken because we just had it for discussion, but we certainly should add those to the list. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
I had one thing, just under number 12, public comments. It had Steve Dumont commented about. Was it about something, or he come on about the item above? Is that what it's stating?
He was questioning the marijuana business ordinance. Yes.
Right, so
we
he
will
was
add that.
commenting about, it maybe would finish with that it looks like it's just cut off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would reference what he commented about.
Okay. Got it. Any other discussion?
Can I just add to that in front of you there are meeting minutes in regards to the treasurer's report and the president's report. I want to thank Treasurer Maddox for reviewing her items prior to the meeting and extending me the professional courtesy of letting me know prior to the meeting that there were any issues with her report. Unfortunately, a couple lines were missing from her report, and I was able to address that prior to the meeting and correct it and bring corrected information to the meeting instead of being blasted in front of everybody at the last minute. Thank you, Treasurer Maddox, for that professional courtesy.
Okay, so we're going to add the entirety of the paragraph, which was C on the sheet that's at our desk, to these revised minutes. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Minutes taken care of. So at this time, we have the special presentations. We have Terry Gibb, MSU Extension. She's hoping to phone in. And we also have David Miller, our tree board chairman. So do you think that Terry is available if I dial her?
Yeah, let's go ahead and try, and
Okay.
if not, I can back it up.
Did we approve the current agenda? Did we approve this, the current agenda?
Yes, that was part of the package.
Oh, okay, I didn't miss that.
Oh, sorry.
No.
And it's bills and agenda. Those three things are in that package.
Hi, Terry. It's Christine from the Village of Romeo. I have you on speakerphone at our municipal meeting. Are you able to join us to give an overview?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. I have you on speakerphone. We're at our community meeting, and I was hoping that you would join us to be able to give the MSU presentation for the gypsy moth. Do you have time?
I do, and is there any way you can push me back a little bit?
Unfortunately, no. We are at that point. I can let David Miller go and give an overview if it's not,
Yeah, I can do a few minutes.
okay.
All right.
I'm going to leave you.
Yeah, leave me on, and
Yes.
I'll put myself on mute and see what's going on.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right,
So
so
the
thank
floor is
you.
yours.
Okay.
We tried to coordinate the best we can to make this
So,
work.
so I'm not the expert like Terry Gibbs is from, but I will cover it kind of high level and see if she's off. If she's not, then we'll take questions. If we can't answer them, we can get back to you. So thank you for a couple minutes to talk to you today. Again, my name is David Miller with the Romeo Tree Board. And Terry Gibbs, who's on the phone line, she's a senior extension educator for the Michigan State University Extension of Macomb County. So let me start with just a quick overview, and if Terry's available, we can have her talk. If not, then I'll continue on and answer questions as I can. We have a couple other people who've been sitting in the meetings here as well. Ruth and Bob has been sitting in our meetings as well. Ruth part of the board as well. So a quick overview. Last year, a Romeo resident identified the presence of gypsy moths in the village and called MSU Extension, which triggered them to come out and do a survey of the village to see in the surrounding area, all of Macomb County really is what ended up happening, to look for gypsy moth infestation indicators, which are like cocoon sacs that are on the side of trees. They found them, in fact, and then determined that they were at the beginning of a 5-year gypsy moth infestation cycle. The cycles kind of last where the moths will hatch. They'll become little caterpillars, go up, eat a bunch of the leaves in the trees, and over time, over the 5 years, they kind of deplete themselves and they die off, and that's the kind of the cycle. So the defoliation isn't really what kills the trees, and maybe you remember this from 10 or so years ago when they hit last time. But they cause the trees to become susceptible to death from other diseases. So, you have a hard winter, you have another disease that comes along, and it could knock out quite a few trees. But there is a method, and that's why we're talking to the MSU Extension, a method of dealing with it, and that's dealing with a spray method of a natural bacterium called BT, which as soon as you say spray, it causes concern, but the BT spray is actually naturally occurring and used in organic farms to deal with pests there. So MSU is working to bring together the impacted communities, so all of Macomb County, since Terry represents the Macomb County area as an extension rep, to do a single contract with Macomb County to monitor and spray this year once the larva is hatched and are young and the weather conditions are right. So they'll be continuing to monitor to look and see if the things are what the best time is to do it. So it happens within like a 24-hour period, very quickly. Really where the rubber meets the road is that the application is $145 per acre, which equates to approximately $27,000 for the Village of Romeo to pay to Macomb County for this gypsy moth account. Terry, in fact, is, I think, talking to Clinton right now and has been talking to other municipalities as well. Quickly, just going on the impact of not funded, really would be obviously a defoliation of trees. There's a a handful of trees that they target, but they'll eat up to 500 variety of trees because they're pretty much, if it's there, they're going to, eat what's there to stay alive. Which obviously, again, weaken the trees, damage, and potentially cause tree death from other causes. Maybe not this year, this summer, you see a defoliation, but the tree will push out leaves again, which weakens the tree, and then it can go into a cycle where they actually get hit with something else, a disease of another sort, and have caused problems. So not participating will also mean we could miss out on the cost savings of a multi-community contract, which is really the push right now, is to do that multi-community so we can get the benefit of cost savings there. So in the end, the tree board, we've met and we've talked about this, and we do recommend that we pursue this, recommend to the village council that this is pursued through MSU extension and the Macomb County account. So we will try to turn it over to Terry Gibbs for filling in more detailed, and if there's detailed questions, because that's really a high level. I think there was a packet sent to you that kind of talked about the infestation problem and where it came from historically, that it got brought in, believe it or not, by a snowmobile, stuffed underneath a wheel well of a snowmobile back in the day, and spread since 1954, I think it was. So it's just been kind of growing over the decades as an issue. But I do have other notes here, and if Terry is not available, I can try to answer, but else we can get back to you. So.
Okay. Terry, might you be available yet? By the way, Terry is also presenting to Clinton Township right now, and she was supposed to be later in her agenda. They thought we could maybe get her snuck into ours, and then they moved her up on their agenda as well. So that's what's causing the conflict in her schedule. And I'm not hearing her respond, so.
Yeah, she might be in the middle of presentation, is my guess, so. Yeah, unfortunately, so you have, so I'll call out Ruth if you remember anything, if answers, questions are asked.
Mr. Miller?
So we do have some more information about it, but as, I can open up for
Hello, I'm right in
questions.
the middle of presenting to Clinton Township.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Can you call me back if you've got any questions?
We certainly can. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, sorry about this. We
okay.
thought we had it set up
Yeah.
correctly, but looks like Murphy visited us. So,
Megan, did you have a question that you
Would you
wanted to
just go
ask?
over the price and the quantity again,
Sure.
the acres and the price?
So the current estimate, based on, is this really going to be how many communities get involved, but it's going to be $145 per acre is the estimated cost per acre, which comes up to approximately $27,000. It won't exceed $27,000
But are you
what's been
saying
said.
that is all the communities as a whole, or that's Village of Romeo price?
That is, so this is where Terry's going around and, trying to get the coalition of the willing bound together, because it really is a bigger community problem. You can treat one area. If the next area doesn't treat it, then,
Yeah.
you end up with
Reinfects.
that problem, so.
We have about 185 acres here in the Village of Romeo that have been detected that we have an infestation. So if you do the math, I thought it was 185 times the 145, and that's where you come up with the 27,000.
Okay. I didn't know if
Yes.
that was split between Clinton
Oh,
and
it's-
whoever
That's
else is
just
talking.
Just us.
Romeo's proportion.
Okay, Romeo.
Based
Okay.
on how many communities have at least expressed interest in considering this as a
Okay.
spray effort. But they need to know, they wanted to know last month, and we didn't have time to sort of get everybody on board and go through the webinar that they hosted to gather the information. So I said the best that we could do is look at it in March. So they'd like to know sooner rather than later if we are willing to participate.
David, do you know if our neighboring communities are getting involved with this, like Washington and Bruce?
I don't know personally if they've decided to or not. I think they're still considering, I'm sorry,
Township has.
Bruce, okay.
But the Washington Township said that they would, but they hadn't met on it.
Okay.
So they both look like they're going to go for us, or have to.
I have not heard of any affirmative
Okay.
decisions either.
I think Washington was deciding this week, because they had a presentation last week, I think,
Okay.
or 2 weeks ago at their meeting.
Sure.
And I think they were going to make the decision.
Yeah, it's all kind of, everyone's making a decision, I think, pretty much concurrently. Nobody's really ahead for whatever reason. So That's kind of where we're at currently.
The thing that's sort of important to remember, and I did not attend the webinar, but that it doesn't kill the trees. It will defoliate the trees, but obviously trees are very important to Romeo, so I wouldn't want to lose one for any other reason, just for lack of
Right.
attention to this problem. And $27,000 is a significant amount of money. I believe it's just a one-time application, and then we would be covered for, multiple years. What you said, it was 10 years ago was the last time.
I think it was about 10, if I
That we-
heard her correctly. So it's just
Yes.
been recurring, the problem becomes worse as they mass and they get concentrated, then they, die off in a 5-year cycle about. So it's kind of where it's at now. They do, so it's basically, the spray, since Terry's not on, just to explain the spray a little bit more. The spray goes on the leaves, the bugs eat the leaves, the insects eat the leaves, and that kills them. It doesn't kill them all. You're basically just trying to do population management at that point, just making them so they don't become a huge, balloon, a huge spike of caterpillars from season to season. So I guess that's some of the caveats, is that they will eat, not all of them will necessarily die, and that's where they have to get in that real specific 24-hour period window where they're constantly monitoring MSU extension is. And then they say, okay, today's the day to spray because of weather conditions. You're not getting too much wind, too much rain, and the caterpillars are still young to where they'll be impacted by the BTK or BT. So that's a piece of it. Something that we have worked with, MSU Extension has a education, pamphlet to the public saying this is what you do. We've taken that and we have been pushing it, and we'll continue just to forward that to the public just so they know we're not editing anything with the information from MSU Extension by their request. Not trying to piece it together, just pushing it as is to the public so they understand what the situation is. So stop there.
We also have, the tree board also has the educational program that we're going to blitz out to the community to educate them way before, someone says,
Sure.
oh yeah, you're gonna be sprayed, and people panic.
Do we have I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak over, but do we have a window of time that they're looking at? Like, is this gonna happen sometime in May or sometime in June, or we really have no idea? It could be just with a few hours' notice?
I could guess, but I would call on Terry Gibbs right
Okay.
now.
She would have the answer to
She
that,
would, yeah,
right?
she would. I think it's around May timeframe, if I understood right.
Yeah.
But it's going to be all weather dependent, so there's probably a
But they
decent
would-
sized window.
Yeah, it's like a notifying us.
I mean, it would be a good
24 hours.
time, 2 weeks in advance of that timeframe for
Right.
the information to get out there and to be, promoted on social media, because what I don't want is people to go, oh, I see a plane overhead and it's dropping something on my house and I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
So I, would look to offer as much education as possible to our residents,
Right.
because it pretty much is from Gates to Pleasant, right? From Sisson over
To
to.
Main, I think.
Yes, to
Right
Main
here.
Street.
Right.
That was pretty much the 2 quadrants that were affected.
And it's also how, we're also going to be educating the community as to how they can help, how they can identify some of the clusters on their own trees and eradicate them at that level. And so, try to get the community proactive in solving this issue too.
Because it's simple things like, just knowing that you just don't scrape it off the bark of the tree. If you see the egg sac or the silky webbing, you actually have to burn it, or they'll just hatch on the ground and, be of no use. And just how you can pick off the worms, but, it's labor intensive, obviously, to do those type of things. And it's not going to cover all the village, including the woods and, public spaces and all that. But there's things people can do. People can buy BT on their own and spray their own trees if they choose to on their property. It's things that are available out there, and those are things that we definitely just need to get out to the public in general, and can be done, with the
So
new
this-
services.
what is the application process? You said airplane, I don't know.
It's an aerial spray,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so it's not like something that anybody in the quadrant could opt out of?
Correct.
You're all gonna
Right.
be included?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it gonna
Yeah,
be
good point.
something, in getting out the information, are we gonna wanna close our windows and that sort of, is it, how far does it go into the air?
How far does it?
Like,
spread?
do we need closed
Yeah.
windows? Should we be outside playing and breathing? Do I wanna go out for a walk that afternoon? That kind
Right.
of thing.
Right. And I don't have the answer for you, but
Okay,
That's where
we'll
Terry
get,
would.
we'll get Terry, but I think it's pretty benign.
okay.
But don't quote me because I'm not the expert.
Well, the info did say it was, friendly to the animals and such,
Right.
but I don't know if I necessarily want to breathe it as
Right.
it's settling.
Sure. It's natural recurring in the soil type stuffs, but, again, I'm not gonna stand up here and tell you one way or another if I know.
Okay.
Not
We'll
100%
find out.
sure. I'll leave, we can get you an answer though. We'll take that down as a question.
Thank you.
And you
So-
probably don't know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Has there been any other municipalities that have had successful education efforts enough that they didn't need the spray, but could educate their residents, and they could, sort of take care of and responsibility for their own properties without having this bloom of infestation?
I couldn't answer that with any
didn't think so either,
confidence. I don't know the history. I know that the federal government was taking care of the funding for some time, and then they reverted over in the last, 10 years or so to the state and
Right.
local municipalities. So I would say, just guessing that the more public spaces you have, the less, probably people aren't going to go out there if it's not their own property and deal with the trees, so you might have that.
Well, our
still that
trees are so
issue.
tall, so I really don't know how any
Yeah.
residents could effectively,
Right.
spray them.
It'd be a full-time job picking the caterpillars off.
Right, you might be able
Sure.
to find them, in your wheel well. I believe that they have, been
Right.
spotted someplace else, or, going on a fence, but on the top of some of those big old trees, I pretty
Yeah.
much doubt that we'd be effective. But I still wanted to pose the question.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think there'll probably be, and that's something we need to get out to the public, through the news services. It's just, hey, this is what you can do to, protect your own property. If you so choose to, you can do this in addition. So it'd be good for people to know.
And they've provided almost weekly data that we can be sharing on the Mid-TV. We're gonna do a whole education. She's gonna give her presentation again, on the Mid, and then we're just gonna try to cover, communicate and educate everyone we can before this even gets close to the day of spring.
okay.
Was this presentation given at the tree board?
Yes, we had Terry Gibb come to our tree board, and she,
Is that available?
Well,
I don't know, did we record the
The
tree board?
meeting-
Yeah, and then there was the webinar too. that we
Yeah.
did all
Okay,
that.
well, so we can watch it back.
the meeting minutes from February, if you look at those from the tree board, are quite detailed. I think it gives a real good overview and, really supplements what's on the material we gave you.
Oh, cool.
So pretty much everything I'm saying right now is from the meeting minutes that came from that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely encourage you to go to that.
All right. Anybody have
All
any
right.
other questions regarding this? Okay, it's obviously on our agenda for later.
Okay.
I thank you for
Yep.
taking the time, both of you, to, and,
Sure.
educate us, and then come tonight to give an overview on your recommendation.
Okay, and one just announcement quickly that's a little more positive. We're gonna shoot for the Arbor Tree Day celebration on the end of April and put a couple of trees in the ground and work for Tree City USA. And I won't take your time to talk about it now, but just to let you know that that's in the works. And we tried to do it last year, but it kind of fell apart due to these masks and COVID and everything else.
Right.
So this year it should work out, so.
Great.
Thanks for your time,
All right,
appreciate it.
thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, correspondences, we had no correspondence this month. Up number 6 then would be public comment. Anybody in the audience? Glenn, Nikki, okay.
So Nikki and I have been talking a little bit about a concern that we're having with the parking right behind our businesses. And we've been made aware of the possibilities of additional restaurants coming into near us to utilizing the same parking lot. And I think more than anything else, I wanted to voice my concerns and see if there's some keep it in the thought process as you're going through site plans of additional restaurants or expanding restaurants, to maybe address the parking in whatever fashion you think it can be done. Right now, it's a struggle at times for the parking lot, and I think if we keep adding businesses to use that same municipal lot, I think it's gonna get much, much worse. I don't have any issue at all with additional restaurants or liquor licenses coming into the area. I just wanna make sure that we're doing it in a way that makes sense for everybody, for any new people coming in, and as well as the existing restaurants and businesses that are in that area. I think that, I wish that there was some easy answer to accomplish the parking issue, but I don't know that there is. There's been talk about parking meters or additional purchases for a property to turn into additional parking lots, and, I don't have that answer of what is the best way to go with it. But I guess I just wanted to express that it is an area of concern with, I think Nikki and I, both of our carryout business has gone up dramatically since COVID. One of the key things especially with carryout business, is the convenience of getting in and out. And if people aren't able to do that, whether they're coming in for dining or getting a carryout, I think we're gonna be losing people going down the road outside of the community and where it's more convenient and easier to get in and out of. I don't know if you had a couple of things you wanted to jump in there.
I agree with everything that Glenn is saying. We've talked about this amongst each other, and I think that we can all agree that parking has been an issue for several years in Romeo. And actually, a bit before the meeting, I had pulled out some old files, and there's some parking studies that were done years ago that I'm going to share with Christine. Like Glenn said, we don't necessarily have a solution, but just something that maybe we could that could be in the thought process when considering approving new restaurants. I think we both agree that we welcome them. I think the more that we have in a community, the better for everyone. We just want to make sure that it makes sense for everyone as well.
For sure. So a couple of things that I shared with both of them, if I could just interject, was that when we had Vito with his medical building site plan come before us, and he needed to use part of the municipal lot on Bailey Street to meet his occupancy for his site plan approval. Mr. Casson had indicated that it's common in other communities that trade-off using municipal lots requires a fee structure. They pay in for use of those parking spaces. That way you have always a rolling fund to help maintain, to help, infrastructure. If we needed to purchase more parking, we would have some sort of capital asset plan for that. So I certainly think that we need to take a look at that sooner rather than later and get that on the books. So that gives us the ability to at least have some sort of tax capture that we could, or revenue capture, not tax capture, to utilize for that source. The parking study that Nikki briefly informed me about was, she thought, done by the DDA before I was on board with that. So I was very curious. She said there was like 10 or 12 action plans that were possible, because I mentioned under our goals and objectives about doing a parking study. Something that I talked to Paul O'Meara about from Rowe Engineering, and I certainly think that I could share that information with him and move that parking study along. I think it's needed. I know we talked about parking last year, maybe utilizing the church, especially in the northwest quadrant around the park with the postal employees, finding some sort of off-site parking. I have also engaged in a couple of conversations with some other property owners, and I don't have anything to share today as far as specific details, but it looks like there may be an option to build 2 new lots or to partner with an existing business to get part of those for municipal use shared. So that's an option, but I don't have anything, signed. I don't have a lease agreement to bring forward to you, but it's clearly, important. It's important to our business owners. I would love for them to have a dedicated carryout zone, right, for those that are looking for curbside carryout, because a lot of municipalities do that. I don't know if we can give up that parking. We allowed them to put signage out when COVID, when no one was out, but now that everybody's back, I wonder how taking away one space per business from the municipal lots to do that would affect overall. But I do think that we need to work with them even under this COVID comeback to make it as revenue generating for all of them as possible. So that's my thought on that.
Can municipal parking spots only be counted so many times, depending on how many businesses are around, or is it just every business that comes in can count spot A as a spot?
That's a very good question. I do not know. That would be up to the planning commission because they technically approve those site plans. And that's where I learned about that with the medical building issue. So it would be a good question to ask Mr. Casson. How do you account for that?
I would think that with a change of use, the requirements would be different. So if you're changing the use of a building, I think that the requirements would be adjusted, I would think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, when the medical building was brought up, you guys had discussed, they had to have so many of their own spots
Yes.
for that.
For site plan approval, they do have to have a certain percentage, and I don't remember what that percentage was. I thought it was 20%, but 10 or 20%, I'm not 100% certain on that number tonight, on site. And then the rest they could garner from other adjoining parking lots. And that's obviously is what's been done in the southwestern parking lot, behind the police department, behind Glenn, behind Nikki, because no one owns, well, I shouldn't say that. There are some that are privately owned. PNC owns a chunk, and then Mr. Parker owns a chunk of that, but the rest of the businesses there all sort of share that municipal lot. So having had a plan like this on the books, we might have been able to have some revenue generated, but no point in putting it off when we can just take care of it, hopefully in the next couple of months. And I can certainly work with Steve Cass and draft, I'm assuming it's an ordinance or a fee schedule. Mark, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but would it be an ordinance or would it be just by a fee?
I would recommend that you do it by ordinance with the ability to change the fee, much like you have ordinances on the book for different permits, and by resolution, you can change the fees.
Because we have a parking ordinance, so we would just have to
Correct.
amend that to include a fee for
Correct.
site plan compliance. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I'm sorry, we got sidetracked from public comment, but did you have anything else to add to that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind, scanning that
Absolutely, I'll
over,
send them
or,
over.
I appreciate that, Nikki.
No problem.
All right.
Have you guys also approached the DDA on this subject?
No, I think this all came about a little bit because of, we heard about the new potential restaurants coming into the area, and that's what kind of got the ball rolling for us. We weren't sure where they were at with site plan approval or liquor license applications and that type of thing. And we just wanted to put it out there to be in the thought process of it, somewhat addressing it. But I don't know I'm not sure what role the DDA would play in it.
Well, I don't think, Nikki said, they're the ones that created that parking plan that you're gonna be copying and handing over to Christine, so I think they'd have a pretty big role in it, to be honest.
I would think the DDA would be one that would maybe hash that out and look for solutions, and then they would be making the recommendations to us. That's how, what they would say would be in the best interest of the downtown development area.
Sure.
I don't have a problem mentioning it at our next meeting, bringing it up.
Okay.
We have
We
our
have a
goals.
goals
and yeah.
at the beginning, and then we have our meeting.
Yeah.
So definitely something that can be mentioned at that time.
Yeah, I'd appreciate
I know it's been done probably 10 times, though.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I don't think this is anything new. This is
No.
no big surprise. And I guess, we just have concerns about our people not being able to get in. And I think for a restaurant, if you make it too inconvenient, there's other places to go to. So I see it every weekend, people will do a loop around, or maybe two, and if there's nothing there, they get back on Van Dyke. And, we're just trying to,
Do you think if we had better signage of pointing where other options of parking is at, would that do anything to help? Or do you think people just don't want to even walk behind, say, FAM's?
I think in the summertime, people are more likely to walk. Obviously, in the colder months, they're not as likely, because I do see there's sometimes, like on a Sunday afternoon, there may be no one in the parking lot, but the restaurants are full, because people are just milling around on the
Yeah.
streets. But they did put up some signage, I don't know how many years ago, wasn't that the DDA, Christine,
Yep.
that put up, I know specifically like on the Bailey.
For Bailey,
The
right.
Bailey Street parking lot. I
But
think,
they're
I don't
not
know,
very-
maybe just because
they're very pretty, but I don't know that it's, when you're looking for a spot, are you going, oh, you know, look at
Right.
that parking
Right.
sign? If we could maybe make it more prominent somehow, I don't know.
Maybe
I think
there's
it's worth a
sign on the
try.
lot
Yeah, it couldn't
behind.
hurt, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right, additional parking.
Yeah.
Just wondering if that, you think that would be helping the issue at all?
I think it's worth a try.
Because what we don't want to happen is for the cars to start lining up on our residential streets either, right? We had that, there's the known issue down in Washington Township where there wasn't enough parking for brown iron and everybody was just lining up in everybody's driveways and parking on the grass, so.
It's like
we
Peach
don't-
Fest every day.
We don't want them all parking at Sherry's house.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to be the cause of an issue of
Right,
causing a resident
right.
any issue either. That's
Yeah.
not what we would want.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the fact that you guys are involved and, you know, willing to help, at least provide some information, so
For sure.
we'll see what we can do.
And I just send that to info@Village of Romeo, right? Or do you have a specific email?
You could just send it to president@villageofromeo.org.
perfect.
Yeah, that'll come right to my office, so.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Nikki. All right, was there anybody else from the audience that wanted to speak under public forum? Believe we have one comment.
Yes, this comment came via email late this afternoon, dated March 15th, 2021. Once again, it is rather obvious that a lack of communication is profoundly impacting the sensibility of our tri-community relationship. I do not understand why all of our tri-community elected officials do not communicate directly with each other and form a unilateral relationship and understanding. This lack of direct communication and camaraderie only allows outside voices to convey false and distracting information via social media and rumor. Perhaps it is time to hold a workshop that would comply with the Open Meetings Act so some of the animosity and apprehension between officials can be addressed directly with each other and a resolution can be reached. Our tri-community relationship directly impacts all of the residents from 3 communities who are joined together by so many positive means, such as our schools, libraries, parks and recreation, churches, and so on. The so-called divide is only perpetuated by those who see it as a personal conquest to come between responsible adults in this tri-community area. A more direct line of communication between officials would eliminate all the drama and misunderstanding that the majority of residents find embarrassing and an absurd and useless waste of time. Signed, Debbie Martone, Romeo resident.
Okay. I don't know what that is in regards to, but I'm assuming there's some social media drama going on, so. I really try not to go down that wormhole because it's a waste of time. But we've received your comments, so we read it onto the record. Okay, let's move on to our office reports. First up, President's Report for March 15th. Just FYI, Romeo's annexation request on behalf of Mr. Zahowski's Armada Township parcels is tentatively on hold from the County Commissioner's agenda that was supposed to be taking place Thursday, the 18th, but it's on hold pending for the review of the municipal boundaries. I want to wish the second of our Romeo Centurions a very happy 100th birthday. Miss Genevieve Gates will be honored with a drive-by procession on Thursday, March 18th. Anyone who is available is asked to join the procession at Crystal Diamond Fields. That's on 33 Mile Road near the courthouse at noon. And I believe Trustee Parker was sort of helping organize that parade. So if you have any other questions, reach out to him. I think there's a third. Well, you texted me this afternoon, so I know there's a third 100th birthday, and her name is also Genevieve. I don't know what the chances are of that, but the third. So I'll be presenting a certificate to Mrs. Gates, and I'll also get a third one prepped for the third Centurion. I did offer a certificate on behalf of all the elected officials to Mrs. Frances Stenbig, who turned 100 on February 25th. I hope everyone caught that parade that was live streamed on the MIT TV. So that was a great celebration, and thank you for coordinating that. I believe you had a hand in it too, Megan.
Yes.
I am extremely proud and excited to announce that Romeo has been awarded the Transportation Alternative Program Enhanced Pedestrian Crosswalk Grant I submitted with the assistance of Paul O'Meara from Rowe Engineering. I learned this week that the grant award is $190,000. The anticipated project cost was $363,000, with $80,000 of that remaining project cost coming from the DDA as a joint project between the Village Council and the Downtown Development Authority. Once I receive the directives for receiving funds, we'll begin the engineering and bid process in hopes to have the work begin in the spring of 2022. Just to recap this project, the scope of work was for 5 intersections along Main Street, Van Dyke, at Washington Street, Lafayette, St. Clair, and Newberry, as well along St. Clair Street, which is 32 Mile Road, at Bailey and Rawls. All of those intersections, all 5, will receive a colored surface treatment designed to look and sound like brick pavers, as well as new curb and gutter, new ADA compliant mats, and crossing signage placed at the curb. The signage is not expected to be lit or audible, and the project will not include any bump outs other than at Lafayette. I wanted to extend my sincere thanks to SEMCOG, which is the Southeast Michigan Council of Government, for this financial investment in the Village of Romeo. And excitedly, Romeo has been chosen as the City of the Week by 94.7 WCSX. Cool. They came out today. They'll be airing footage from an interview that myself, Catherine, and Richard Corey did today, along with other fun facts and trivia questions from their visit earlier from today. They'll also be broadcasting live from Younger's Tavern on Wednesday from 3 to 7. So come meet them and share your love of Romeo with their listeners. That concludes my report. Exciting stuff for Romeo.
What station again?
94.7 WCSX.
This is all day then, or just like a morning show, or?
From Youngers, they're broadcasting from 3 to 7, I think, is part of the St. Patrick's Day festivities that Glenn is having there. But the whole week, we're the city/village of the week. So I pointed them in the direction of the time capsule that was just uncovered at the middle school. So I don't know if they made their way over to Kezar Library to check out some of those artifacts or not. But yeah, they were in the Village Hall for, I don't know, maybe half an hour or so today, and did a quick little interview and asked Catherine and I a trivia question, which we nailed, by the way. So tune in and listen to that. That was fun. All right. Clerk Trapp, do you have a report to share with us?
Yes, a brief one. It's that time of year again where cemetery grave blankets will be taken away at the cemetery if family members don't come and grab them. Starting the week of March 29th is when DPW will be taking them. So if anybody wants to come and grab their grave blanket, you have until then. I have been getting a lot of phone calls letting the residents know when family members know when they can come grab what they have left behind. And also, we mentioned last week that President Malzahn and I sat in on a webinar for meeting software that would allow online board packets and everything electronic. I'm still waiting for follow-up information from that. And that is it. Just for you trustees, though, when you're done with your pink pages, I need those with your initials on them. I need those back to me ASAP because we already approved that. Thank you.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Hello. Emailed out was the document, Megan, you had requested, and I just want to make you aware, the column all the way to the right, the figure down at the bottom, the total is the $43,050 is what we've abated. And the second business from the top, they are in default. I have been in contact with the business owner in that regards, and they did pay their water bill outstanding of $2,600 on March 3rd. And does anyone have any questions? I know when it was emailed out, Tim and I worked on this last fall when we completed the tax roll. So this, I think, does it answer any other questions that you may have?
Not at this time, I don't.
Okay. And that concludes my report, unless anyone else has anything.
Oh, thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
All right. Trustee reports. Justin, you want to start us off?
I don't have so much a report. I guess when we did the consent agenda, kind of threw me for a loop.
Sorry.
I don't know if we can go
First
back
time for all of
at
us.
all, but yeah, I had just one thing I wanted to go over for discussion again and kind of follow up on last month with, and then also we had some questions about the bills last month that we were supposed to get followed up on this month with some of the accounts and how they fell with the payments, and they were uneven. You're supposed to, like, I think it was with Detroit Salt and some of the other stuff. You were going to follow up this month on that.
I can't remember what Rebecca said on that. One was or I might be getting this month confused with last month, because one, there was credits, that's why the totals were different. There were credits that were applied, so the
And I
bills were
believe that
greater
happened
than,
again.
or less than the check register report total. But the Detroit Salt, we get multiple, they've received multiple,
Shipments?
Shipments,
Shipments
yes,
and
deliveries
invoices, yep.
is the word I was looking for,
Okay.
of salt. So every
That's why,
time they
after
get
looking
one.
back through it, I kind of figured maybe the
Yes.
deliveries and the payments went out and it just wasn't coinciding, but I just
Yes,
wanted
it's
to.
just timing.
It's-
Because
Okay.
some of that report that you were looking at also was for more than the current month.
Correct.
So the way that it prints out, you'd have to just make sure that you're not taking into account any of the previous month.
That makes sense.
That's on there.
Okay,
Yep.
that makes sense. And if we're able to, I know we already approved it, I thought we were approving last month's stuff. I'd like to bring back up for discussion the marijuana ordinance, further discussion, then follow up on what we went over last month. How that was reconciled.
Right. Well, we've already approved the agenda. I can give you the update that I've spoken with Mark. We've, identified that error, and he's reviewing it. There was a couple of other changes in the regulating body from Lansing, and so I've given him that information, and him and I have a couple of meetings set up, and we hope to go over that and then bring back an amended version of that ordinance that we can look at. We just didn't have it ready in time for tonight's meeting.
So are we currently still in the process of issuing licenses?
No, we've never issued any licenses.
Yeah, I know
but
we haven't, but-
we put on hold accepting any applications. We had not received any, even though the period was open, but I directed Catherine, once I checked with Mark, who said, we'll just put that on pause. We won't accept anybody's application, and we're letting everybody know that once it's approved by the council level and goes through whatever publication requirements need to be done, then we would reopen up that application period, so.
Okay, it's kind of what I wanted to discuss a little bit.
Okay.
I've been getting some feedback and hearing more about, with different cities and whatnot with that. And a lot of issues have been arising, a lot of lawsuits with things not happening in public meetings, especially with the point systems and stuff like that. People, in a closed meeting or sitting down with, it was supposed to be treasurer, clerk, and I think Mark. Everybody I've been talking to says, make sure these are happening at public meetings, not at private meetings, because there's lawsuits. Warren, I think in 2020, had all their licenses thrown out because things were done behind closed doors. Berkeley, very similar, where they might be on the right, but still we don't want to bring on unneeded lawsuits for this.
Right. And Mark has been very vigilant in making sure that we're crossing all of our Ts and dotting our Is.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was unaware
Yes,
that we
yep.
had paused or put it on
Yes.
hold, so that's good to hear.
Yep. Okay. So anything else for?
No, that was it.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Nothing from Bob. Matt?
All set?
Megan?
Just an update that I am done with my classes for my zoning administrator certification. I just have to take my test. It's due sometime in April, so I need to get on that. It does not mean I am qualified to be a zoning administrator. It just means I have taken a class and gotten a certificate in the education of it, so do not be mistaken. Also, I've started a new podcast called the Romeo Wrap-Up. You can find me on Spotify and other podcasts where basically I take our 2 and 3 hour meetings and boil them down to 15 minutes highlights that you can listen anywhere you want. I am unbiased, say what everybody has. It is not an opinion piece, it is just trying to get info out to the people. So, that is all.
Trustee Bartholomew, anything?
All set?
Okay, perfect. I know that Mr. Fowler is absent tonight, and I was not at the Planning Commission meeting, but I do know that they had one agenda item, which was a site plan review for a garage expansion up at Malberg Funeral Home, and that was approved. They also have a draft of the master plan that's going out for community survey input. So hopefully that'll be up on the website soon. It's a little interactive website that Mr. Casson has designed in an effort to keep that project moving forward since COVID has sort of stalled our in-person meetings. So I think that's it from the Planning Commission. Okay, committee reports. Sidewalk Committee has not met, so we've got nothing there. And then we move into our unfinished business. We have the MSU Gypsy Moth Spray. That estimated expenditure is $27,000. if any more discussion or a motion to approve or deny that expenditure?
I was just, do you want to try and see if we can get Terry? Does any of the questions? There were a few questions. I mean, I guess you want to have a motion and
Where in the,
What are we talking
where in the
about?
budget would we be looking at? And is that this year's
it's-
budget or proposed next year?
It would come out of this year's budget, and it would just come out of the general fund. We would probably have to add a line item for, under like, well, it's not necessarily for Village Hall and Grounds, although technically we're in that quadrant, but I'm not sure where Tim would recommend that we actually put the line item, but. So, I can certainly dial Terry back and see if she picks up. Does anybody have a?
She's available now.
Okay. Thank you. I hope I dialed the right number. That would be embarrassing,
Joe's Pizza.
right?
Yeah, order a pizza.
Terry? Oh, no, she hung up on me. That could be embarrassing, too. All right.
Did you need the number?
I dialed the number, and then she hung up on me.
Oh, okay. I mean, text her real quick again and.
Right, just
Okay.
verify. Is it okay if we just skip ahead and we go to the proposed project goals and?
Well, I do have a question. It's just
Yeah.
a thought, because it wasn't so much a question for him as maybe a thought for us, that given the lifespan of our trees, should we be spending this money on saving something that might not make it much longer? Should we be investing it in new trees? I don't know. It's just a thought that our trees are old, most of them. Are we just putting a Band-Aid on things? I don't know.
She's ready? Okay.
That's a good question.
Hello?
Hi, Terry. It's Christine again from the Village of Romeo. I have you on speakerphone, and there were a few
Okay.
questions that were generated. So I'm going to try and relay those. Hopefully you can hear everybody okay.
Okay, if I can, I'll let you know.
Okay, perfect. Trustee Poznanski just posed a question, and she was expressing concern over the age of our trees right now, since they are older, and we do have some known disease out there. If this was an expenditure that would be worthwhile, or if we should put that money as an investment into new trees, yeah.
You know what? I am not a consumer hort person, so I can't make that call for you. I do know that that if the trees are older, if they are in good shape, trees can last 100 years or more. And if they're in good shape, you might want to protect them, and that's one of the things that this will do. I mean, I don't know if David mentioned, but I always tell people, gypsy moth does not kill the trees. What it does is if it defoliates it enough, it weakens the tree, and that allows other critters and diseases to get to the tree, and in the weakened condition, that's what kills the tree. So the best you can do is keep the defoliation down as far as you can. And last year, we did a defoliation survey after we sprayed in 4 communities, and the defoliation rate was less than 10%. And the idea is to keep it below 40. So from that standpoint, keeping your trees healthy by not letting things get at it is a good thing, and will make your trees last for many more years.
Okay. Another question that we had was, do we have a time frame in mind of when this typically would happen? I know David said you wait till ideal conditions, which is wind and weather. But if we were going to do a community education effort and try and push out notifications to our residents, do we know, does this typically occur in March or June or May?
Yeah. What's going to happen is right now we're kind of prepping for everything because it's in a holding pattern. When the weather gets warm enough, probably I'm guessing mid-April or so, the big masses will begin to hatch. All right, and so then we start monitoring daily because we have to get them, as David mentioned, we have to get them at exactly the right time. Yes, weather conditions are important. Temperature, wind direction and speed, humidity, that kind of thing is important, but it also is very important to get sprayed when the caterpillars are at a certain size of their growth. Because if they're less than that, if they're less than the second instar of their growth, they won't be up in the trees eating the BT off the leaves. And if they're bigger than the fourth instar, it doesn't have the impact on it, because what it does is they eat the BT, they ingest it, and then the BT kills them from the inside out. And if they get too big, it doesn't have an impact. That is how target specific the BT is.
Okay. There were
And
some, I'm sorry.
So they will hatch, and we'll be monitoring, and then normally we spray again, depending on everything, sometime mid to late May. We have sprayed as early as May 12th. We have sprayed, last year I think we sprayed May 27th or 28th. It was late. It was after Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
So it just depends, and what we do, that's one of the things that the county does as part of the admin. When we did the final maps, and you saw there was a little bit difference between the estimated acreage that I gave you and then the final acreage, when they did the maps, that's what changed it. And when he does those maps, he also gives me the address of every home in that spray block. And then what we will do is we will send out a letter by mail explaining what the program is, what we'll be using, when we'll be doing it approximately, how it'll be applied, all of that kind of stuff. And if they have any questions, then they can contact us for further information.
Okay.
Christine? I just wondered how set that price is, or is it dependent on our neighboring communities also signing up to have this application done at the same time?
Terry, did you hear that? Did you hear that
I
question?
heard part of it.
Right. He was asking how set that price is, and I know you and I have talked that it's really going to depend on the buy-in from all of the municipalities that have an infestation.
Right.
Correct? Yes.
Right.
So we think it will be no more than 20.
Yes.
She's guaranteed it will be
Yes.
no more than 27,000, but it could be less.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when I talked with the applicator, because we were in a chicken or the egg thing. All the communities needed a price to be able to vote on it, and he needed to know how many communities were in with how many acres before he could set a price. So I said, give me something, and he said it will not be above 145 an acre. That's what he told me. And if everybody's in, I can see if I can push them down. It won't be much, maybe $1 or $2 an acre, but if you've got a lot of acres, then it starts adding up.
Okay. There were. I'm sorry.
Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, my other question that came up was the day of the spray was not knowing much about this product that's being used. So do you recommend that people stay indoors? Do they shut the windows? Do they, bring their pets in?
Well, okay, another thing I didn't mention is we will be spraying at first light. So we will be he'll be up there in the air spraying probably around 6 in the morning. People can stay in, they can keep their pets in, it probably is a good idea, but it won't hurt them. I mean, I've been out in spray blocks when they spray. Last year, I was in a spray block in Clinton, and there were two people, one was out walking her dog, then another man was out jogging, and I stopped to tell them both that they'd be spraying. They said, oh yeah, we know it, we're fine, and they were.
Okay.
So it isn't, but we do tell them, and occasionally we'll get somebody who has a lot of severe allergies, and they'll call us, and then we try to let them know as soon as we know, because sometimes they say, well, we'll just leave the our homes, go someplace else for the day, and then come back. It dries within a couple of hours. So after that, everything is fine. We also will be notifying, in addition to all the residents, we notify all the police in spray blocks, like Utica, Romeo, Washington, they'll all be notified. Fire departments are notified. We notify all schools in spray blocks as well as adjacent to. We also notify the hospitals in the area so that anybody who gets questions will be able to answer those. And we try to give as much warning as we can. Last year we had less than 24 hours notice because just weather conditions and the instar growth just wasn't lining up right. So it was, but sometimes we have 48 hours. Those are the nice times.
Okay.
Terry, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
It's Bob Hart. With our spray block, where that touches like Washington and Bruce, is there areas that it expands beyond our border that Bruce and Washington would be opting to be contiguous with our area?
You know, I haven't looked at the maps that closely. I didn't do the surveying, but I do know that we are spraying acres in fact, we're spraying acres in every community on the west border of Macomb, from Warren to Bruce.
Okay.
Every single one.
And
has got acres. Now, whether or not they are, it overlaps into it, it could, but I don't know that without looking at it. And the county's doing me a map right now of all the spray blocks in the county so that I can actually look and see where they're all at.
Okay, and any information
But
on...
if they warrant it, because how we determine spray, what gets sprayed, what qualifies, it's based on MDARD criteria. And so you have to have a minimum number of egg masses within a certain area in order to qualify. If it's below that, then we don't spray. If it's above that, then we work out from there.
Okay, and then any update on what Bruce or Washington?
Do we have an answer, or do you have an answer or commitment from Bruce Township or Washington Township for participation yet?
Bruce, no, I've been having trouble getting a hold of them. Washington, I was on their agenda a week or so ago, and they tabled it until their next meeting.
Which is Wednesday, I believe,
yeah.
yes, okay. Any other questions for Terry?
Just looking
All
up
right.
the map.
Thank you, Terry. We appreciate your time very much, all right?
Oh, and
Okay.
let me apologize again for the snafu of this, you know. I was supposed to be late on their agenda, and then they were being nice to me and moved me to the top.
Well, hopefully now you're done with both of us and you can go home and relax.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and please, if you have any more questions, don't hesitate, send me an email or give me a call, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. I'll follow up with you tomorrow. All right.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
I think as far as your question, I think it's kind of like the one that's in my yard is precious to me, no matter if it's 75 years old out of 100, where, hey, no, that guy, no, forget his, but the one in my yard, no, it's precious to
Yeah.
me. And so it's kind of a general type thing that sounds like a good idea, but you start going individually asking people, and they cherish those trees, and I think that's where you're gonna get you'd get a lot of fight back on that.
So if they're looking at doing this mid-April at the earliest, we probably need to make a decision one way or the other
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, one way or another. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw out a motion to approve the expenditure of $27,000 to participate in the gypsy moth spray. Or support?
Support.
Support by Bartholomew. I think you got it out there first. Any other discussion?
I just have a couple of thoughts I put out there.
Okay.
I do think it is a lot of money. I was thinking if what we could do, it kind of was weird that it starts like at Pleasant Street, or actually it was Benjamin that I think.
Okay.
And, what a specific area, so they aren't on Tilson Street. If we were to put some resources about letting the village know this year what we were looking at, what the cost was, and the thing is, if you can identify what they are, because they do have the pictures of that, if you scrape it off, you need not just have it on the ground, it needs to be burned or put in soapy water. You can kill thousands of these kinds of things. So I'm going to look around my property and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that would ever happen, but it is like a 10-year cycle that this goes through. it's not like it's gonna kill the trees immediately. And I didn't hear anybody that I know of that had horror stories. She was saying there are some areas that there's so many up there and feces is dropping down, it's like a horror movie, you know? But I haven't seen that, you know, action coming there. So I'm kind of neutral on this, but I'm not sold that the 27 would be, you know, as far as the budget to do that for hitting that area. It's like 1/3 of our village. So, but I would, at a minimum, spend some money to really proactively educate everybody on what they can have. So when they're doing the yard pickup and things like that, you know, we could make a dent on it that way. So that's all I'd say.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I believe they've been here for a couple decades now. If our trees have made it through it, they're 100 years old, I don't think they're backing down anytime soon. They're pretty strong. The number does intimidate me, considering where we are with our budget and the other things that need to get done, and the fact that, like you said, Bob, it's not gonna, we're spending village taxpayers, but only on a portion of the taxpayers. It's not going to be on the whole. Does it benefit the whole? Yes, because we will keep our trees, but,
And I don't know how it will spread from, you know, from block to block at this point. Did you have a follow-up question, Sherry?
Yeah, I just want to say that I have property up in Clare County, and I've owned property for a long time, and we've had to have a special assessment put on our tax because of the neglect that the community didn't spray what we were thinking. And so I experienced last summer up in Clare County, which is heavily hit, where you couldn't even be outside. It was that bad. The droppings from the tree, and everything where it lands is where it lands. And we have a pile of mess that we have to clean up.
That's what Terry was saying.
And we saw these coming in early on in the spring, and then I called the county and said, you know, they're back again. And we didn't spray for a number of years because, you know, people were in objection to it. So I fully support it, because we want to be preventative.
And you're in the area.
Right.
You are in the affected area.
All right, so I have a motion on the floor to approve the $27,000 expenditure with support by Bartholomew.
I'm sorry, when we got the report, did they like grade our area like on a 1 to 10 scale, or saying, you know, we're fully infected or we're only partially?
They gave us that map, which we received in our packets
Yeah, we had the area,
last
but-
month with that aerial map. No, I don't know that she gave a percentage. She just said that they came out, they surveyed,
That's
they
right.
found this infestation in this area.
And if it was over so many that they were finding in a square area,
Yeah.
then it warranted that it would be either spray or spray, not spray. And
Okay.
we had enough to warrant what they would consider to be spray.
and also if our neighbors are doing it, kind of feel by not doing it would not be acknowledging their effort to participate, so, I don't know.
I know, it's a tough call.
Yeah.
But let's call a roll and see where we land.
All right, President Malzahn?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Poznanski?
I'm gonna say no.
Edwards?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Hart?
I am really on the fence on this. What, the budget money that we're gonna come out of with this again? Just-
Well,
Just
we have a
general fund.
$1.2 million fund balance,
Just out of the
so we would
general
find
fund.
$27,000 in there somewhere. Right off the top of my head, Tim's not here to answer that question, but
There go AT&T tower money.
I guess this is up to me.
yeah, right? Because you're at a 3-3, no pressure.
Yeah. I am totally neutral on this. But, you know, with, I guess, what Sherry's saying, she's had the experience to where, you know, I wouldn't want to have that. I'll vote yes.
All right.
All right, that passes 4-2.
4-3, motion carries. All right.
4-2.
4-2, excuse me, sorry. I broke Fowler, but I didn't write an answer here. Okay. All right, I'll follow up with Terry in the morning and let her know, and then we'll monitor Bruce and Washington Townships and see how their votes went down.
we'll see.
Okay, let's move on to the proposed projects goals list. It was asked at our goals and objectives workshop meeting for me to go back and work with Tim, which I did, to organize the project list by fund. So you see now which funds that they would apply to. There are some instances, especially in streets, where a project could be applied to more than one of those funds, so that's why they're listed there. Not that we would do it 3 times, but the ones that are in black are the highlighted, my recommendations that we move forward, which it's just my recommendations, but thought we would just start somewheres. The only other one that I would probably want to change is the wage and salary compensation study. I had that under the general fund, but since this is for fiscal year 21-22 and our union contracts would need to be done prior to that fiscal year, I would pull that off that project list, and we'll probably just move that forward this current year. So you can cross that one off of this proposed list.
So in last week's meeting, I believe didn't Tim tell us that we really didn't have money available to do any major projects?
No,
When
he
he
said
was-
just the opposite. He said, you've got money, now do something.
Oh, no, I thought, so I heard him
He said-
the opposite when he was sitting there talking about you really don't have the money to do any major projects.
No, he said, we don't have money to do, like, to buy the snowplow trucks. There's not 300,000 in motor pool, but you can borrow the money. If you want to do the SAW grant, then you borrow money from the state, you sell bonds, and then you do that whole scope of work. The fund balance that you have then makes those payments. That's what that was
Basically, I
Tim's
think he was telling us
suggestion.
that we don't have the cash to just go out
On
and buy
hand.
the stuff.
Yeah.
But we do have the money to support bond payments that we can work, then with our, the introduction of the additional fees that we put into the water and things like that, those will cover those bond payments. That's what I understand.
Okay, all right.
And so
That makes sense.
the list that you have before you doesn't guarantee that we're going to do all of these projects. And we're not necessarily looking for your approval on the projects. It's really just to give a starting point for Tim and Catherine to draft a budget to bring back to us. So
Yeah.
they need to know what to account for in that with an approximate cost. So these aren't bid out, these are just approximates of discussion points and what we think educated guess that they would be. So,
Just, I don't know, a couple comments that I have. You didn't have it in black, bolded, was the community newsletter. I thought about, and I don't know what I want to ask is how you would maybe execute something like that. I was thinking maybe biannual. You could do a spring, summer, and a winter, fall, and some of the information that you put in there is, some of just the regular burning and those type of things, when you can burn, when you can't. But for instance, this education on the moth, if this is something that's going to be done again next year, that would be part of a newsletter. But who does the newsletter? That would be your office writing the newsletter, and how do you feel about writing a newsletter?
That's what we did. The very first year, we sent a newsletter out in the tax bills. They didn't go out last year, but we did that the first year. And each one of the departments, Sherry, myself, and Catherine, just sort of drafted our own talking points. And then they emailed me that, and then I used my design skills to come up with the newsletter. That, we could certainly do that at tax season at virtually I shouldn't say no cost, because we still have to actually print the thing to make the copies, but as far as the postage, we already have the envelopes going out with the tax bill, so I could see for a minimal cost, maybe a couple $100, we could certainly do one.
Well, maybe not in
Annually.
3 months, but either in 6 months or annually. I think there's enough content. That was
There
one
is.
comment. And then the charging station is something, I've been looking at more of that, but would that be something where maybe we're providing the spots for it and getting some other funds that are for it if we designated a couple of parking spots and then getting that? So I see that as one of your bolded points. you know, maybe that's what the skin we would put in and say we would make a couple of spaces available, but have DTE or whoever's gonna be benefiting from this, or grants from Ford, and, because all the electric cars are coming in, working
Right,
it that way.
there's rebate money available from DTE, and Justin and I had a bit of a difference.
It was 5 or
as
10,000.
how much it would cost to actually
Right.
install that. The webinar that I watched said about $5,000, but I don't know if that's after the rebates, or if that, I
And
mean,
how
I
would
don't
we
know how that
generate
works.
money from it?
We would.
I mean, if we were gonna do it, a good spot I was looking would probably be over there by where the Four Corners Diner is, because I think we have a transformer there, and I believe that's village parking right there, if we were gonna do it, because then you're close to the transformer, and I don't know if it would sustain that amount of power use.
There's also one right in front of Four Corners, well, in the island in front of Four
Yeah,
Corners.
that's what I meant. Yeah, because I know the gas station, it was a year and a half, I think, in the works to bring a new service out there just to power the, I think the two, maybe four, maybe it's two stations there.
Maybe there's something kind of like with the water tower or something where someone wants to put the electric in, and whoever that is, even if it's, you know, Tesla or any of those, but we would maybe entertain giving them the space to do it. And then the third thing, because I just watched the meeting, I'm sorry I wasn't at the meeting, but is the cemetery expansion. I would love to see the cemetery board come with a proposal, you know, like the columbarium that you're talking about, you know, how many spaces that you would have, how much per space, what would be a projected payback on that kind of thing, because, you know, we're full now, and we have the property or a columbarium. I'd like to see us do something like that, especially if it's something that's gonna maybe over a period of time become revenue generator or at least neutral.
Right.
So I would like to see us do something there. That's I don't know if we're gonna solve all this here, or whether we.
Well, I need some direction in order for, again, Tim and Catherine to start working on the budget, and they're proposed to do that over the next couple of weeks in a, you know, prior to our budget workshop meeting scheduled for April. So, if, you
I
know.
guess I still do question the business district waste hauling also. I'm just trying to see how that's justifiable with everything. You know,
Right, well, I put a note that, again, there's another possible funding project with the DDA, doesn't necessarily have to be here, and I'm gonna be prepared to talk about that at the DDA goals and objectives, but that they don't take it up. But that's something, when we had GFL bid that service out, they gave us a separate price, because it is not included in our contract right now. As I indicated, you know, the businesses pay the same taxes and more than the residents do. So I never quite understood why they weren't servicing
I
the
mean, to
district
look back,
anyway.
that kind of goes in with, same with like the sidewalks. The residents have to pay for a portion of their own sidewalks, where most of the businesses downtown,
We all had
they don't pay for that, right? That's all
No,
covered
we
by
had
the
special
city already.
assessment assigned to us when they did all those sidewalks. So it's been paid for, but
With the
there was a
project,
special
right?
assessment when the project was underway by Main Street. That's who did the sidewalks in town, and all the
sidewalk
businesses
project.
paid that. Because I think when we purchased our building, it was like $10,000.
Yeah.
So it was a significant amount.
So that was
of-
included.
Yeah, it was. Not, the new businesses didn't pay that. Obviously, they're just benefiting from it being done.
From being done, yep.
But, and I think
Is
that.
that just picked up at one time, or is that a consolidation of all the dumpsters?
Well, so the thought process was, look, if a business can utilize a wheelie cart like the residents have, then they get a paid wheelie cart. If they need a dumpster because they generate more trash, then they should certainly pay for that on their own. But if it's just a small little business and they can have just one little cart, the idea is just to clean it up, because
Will
there's
they get
so
rid
many
of-
dumpsters out there. I don't know how many, you know, would be willing to get rid of them if I said, you know, if you get rid of this dumpster, we're gonna pay for your trash pickup from now on. They might go, well, yeah, I'm gonna do that, because why am I wasting my money, other than the taxes that I'm paying? So it's just a thought.
So we'd have to have more dumpster corrals or somewhere?
Well, we haven't been able to identify where a dumpster corral would go in the other 3 quadrants. There's been,
Yeah.
you
You gotta
know,
get everybody to.
right.
Yeah, because then if we're gonna
Work
consolidate and
together.
go to wheelie carts, then one business or two businesses have to have that main dumpster then
Well, a
behind their building.
wheelie car could still park out where the dumpsters are on Thursdays, just like everybody does right now. You're a resident, you gotta pull it in your garage, right? You're a business, you gotta pull it in your black storeroom, right? They're not just gonna be sitting out all week long.
Yeah, I can't
Right.
see.
If it's a
I can't see
restaurant-
all of them doing, I mean, some of
Right.
them, maybe more office stuff and paper, yeah, I can
Right.
respect that, but, I mean,
I wouldn't think
Bluebird
restaurants,
or.
right, no, they
Main
generate way too
Treats.
much waste to get rid of their
Yeah.
dumpster. But if they would be willing to consolidate with the Chinese restaurant right next door, you know,
You got 3 restaurants right there, basically.
right, maybe they would collaborate like Glenn and Nikki do in the dumpster that's in that corral. And it's just, no one really has had that conversation with them, and so I'm hoping that the DDA will take that up, but if not, I think we have an obligation to at least try and address it through our blight ordinance, so.
I think before we approve or look at spending the money, let's come up with a plan then on how we're gonna resolve it before we say, let's just spend 30,000 a year. We were just pretty held up about spending 27, a one-time application, and this is 30 a year,
I
so.
have to agree with that. If the DDA held those discussions with the business owners, we should hold off. I don't know how fast that's gonna happen. I don't know if
It
it's gonna
hasn't
happen
happened
next
in
month or-
how many years, Megan?
or
It
if
hasn't.
it's gonna
it
take
hasn't-
We don't
another
move
year and a half.
fast.
But I don't see why we need to be putting money towards something that we don't really have any.
Have a plan.
The only thing
We've got
that
so many other projects.
maybe give an intent that possibly the village would entertain it, because that would be a carrot that, hey, you can get this service if you guys can.
True, but we're,
operate.
I mean, if we look at,
Yeah, but-
budgeting this out, getting a plan in place and putting this towards next year's budget, and if we got a good plan in place,
And
we
I can't see
readdress it.
telling a business that because they generate too much or more than the person next to them, that they can't be included in it. Like, if we're doing it, it's gotta be all of them or none of
Yeah.
them.
I think it would be their choice. I mean, if they choose to have a dumpster, there's nothing that prevents them from having a dumpster, right? They have them
No,
now,
but
but
if
the
we're offering
incentive
it-
is that they would have money. See, but the point of this is, if I give this to Tim, and he looks at me cross-eyed and he said, there's no way I have enough money to put all these projects, even the bold ones, in there,
Right.
I'm gonna say, well, then don't include the garbage, right? If we're over by $30,000, let's cut that one. I'm just looking for a suggestion from you all on what do I tell Tim and Catherine to account for in the budget that they're going to try and draft?
Well, that one's low on the
So that
list.
it's balanced. Okay?
Put that one on the chopping block first.
The village hall repairs, that's now in addition to what's already been done?
Well, so we didn't really finalize a lot of that. We didn't do the doors and windows because the timing just was off with COVID. The approval for the bathroom renovations took a lot longer to get everything moved. So we did part of that.
And the flooring and the front desk and all
The flooring
that?
in the front was really covered under the COVID and the CARES Act funding that we
Okay.
received, so not part of.
So that
although
was
we don't
in
have the money
addition.
back yet, but it was submitted to
Okay.
be part of the stimulus money to cover us. So I just put it on there because we still need to finish the carpet, we still need to finish the bathroom,
You want a new front door, right?
the new front door, or we at least need it to have the glass reglazed, because it literally just blows open. When we had all that wind last week, we called it our ghost visiting, because the door just keeps blowing open.
Got a few of those in town.
So we may need to fix that. It's a little bit of a heat loss.
So with the last approval of the village hall repairs, did we meet or do we use all that money? Because you said some of it didn't get done and was already
The
approved
only thing
before.
that we did, I guess I would have to go back and pull out the total of expenditures for the build-out in the officers' room. I know we paid for the heating and cooling, which ran a little bit over, but there was a problem detected in the AC unit that had a leak, so we had to actually pay a little bit more. It wasn't included in the original estimate.
Okay, so we utilized all the funds put
We didn't
aside for it
utilize,
last
I know
time?
we didn't do all 10,000, but what that total is, I don't know.
We couldn't continue to finish then,
Well, we
basically.
can, but I don't know that we're gonna finish it under this fiscal year.
I got you.
So that's why I'm suggesting that we pencil it in.
What was
to
the
finish
last
it
amount
next
for?
year.
I know I wasn't on the board
It was
then.
10, it was 10,000.
So now we're looking at another 10 to
Mm-hmm.
finish stuff that was supposed to be included in that original 10, is that right?
Right. And the original 10 didn't include carpet. That really was just the estimate for the bathroom and moving it. But since we looked at the carpet,
Okay, yeah, I just see windows and doors in here, so I didn't
Right.
know.
So
A
we're
question
holding
I
off
have
on
is,
the waste
under
hauler.
the sidewalk,
Are we making some, because the cemetery fund, if they have a balance of 111 and it can only be spent on cemetery stuff, based on needing to have a proposal of 40,000 if we have that budgeted out of that. But again, we'd still need the cemetery board to come back with all the specifics or whatever. But I'd like to see that at least we put on the table that we would spend some money, because then we would generate money with because
salary.
right now we're closed. So I would like to see us move with the cemetery fund, and it's gonna be using money that can only be used for the cemetery.
And this,
So to
the
put a
fund
plan.
balance of 111,000 doesn't include the new tax capture for the new .75 mils. So Tim will be able to adjust the revenues against those expenditures, so.
With that .75, do we have a plan or a layout of what that's gonna be used for? Or is it just collecting and sitting there?
Well, we haven't collected it yet, and so the plan was for the cemetery board to come back with a plan.
Okay.
And what do we need? Right now, they focused their efforts on the shed, repainted, new roof. We had the bathroom redone. There's some new signage that's up there. We obviously had the landscaping, or the employee that went up there and did the fall, spring,
Yeah.
and maintenance portion of it. I think that pretty much, yeah.
So now I would think, look at expansion, whether it's property or the columbarium, how we're gonna expand.
Yeah, nice, a good
If
plan.
that's possible, right?
Bring a plan to us, yeah, for approval, definitely.
Okay.
I like that.
So I'll ask them to look at that.
What about the roads?
In the cemetery?
No, the roads.
The roads in general.
The
I mean,
roads.
we've got a plan got put together here. Can Tim estimate, well, I think there's even a dollar value there. Can he estimate what those loan payments would be and per year then? And we could potentially put that, we could get the project started?
Right. I believe that was in part of James Vitrino's proposal that he gave us when he did that road millage study.
Yeah.
I did not bring that sheet with me.
Nor did I.
I put one or two sheets of that in last month's packet, so we can go back and look at that.
Did we look at doing any bonds for the roads, or just all in the
We'd
millages?
we'd have to do it by bonds.
Yeah.
And pay it back with millages, because
Right.
we don't
Yeah.
have the cash sitting at the bank waiting
Yeah.
to just be used.
You could increase the highway tax, which Mark gave us as an option, but the more effective way to do it, and I believe it was James' recommendation, would be to have a ballot issue put forward and ask the voters for a special assessment, a road millage.
If we were to do something like that, what's a real budget number? Because it's not 5 million. If we were to go forth and put something, what kind of, a few $1,000s
What, for
for putting forth anything, if we were.
a ballot initiative?
Yeah,
I
5,000 or,
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be that much, because there's already a special election, scheduled with Lucido. So we would be able to put it, as long as we followed their already posted elections. We'd have to pay a little bit more to Bruce Township. You have to submit the documentation to the county. I don't know what that fee is. I don't know that Mark would know the answer to that, but if he does, he can speak up, right?
Instead of mincing hairs, if we
Do that.
put a $5,000 budget on that,
Right.
just.
To
that we
draft
want
it,
to-
the language?
We want to talk about it, and we'll be discussing that, but at least we have the money to budget, that if we go forward, we've budgeted to move forward. I think we should at least look at all of that. I mean,
Right,
people are
yes.
expecting the roads to be getting fixed.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say
So
that
we'll
would be
put
number
$5
one.
grand for a ballot proposal. Okay.
Because that might even have some bond cost money or something.
And I'll see if we can't get, the actual costs involved, what that is. I'll do a little research.
I had a question about the middle school sidewalk.
Yes.
It's gone up 10 grand since last Monday. Why?
Yes. Well, because I think we're gonna have to do a jog. When you look at the line of sight, although we should not need to do any right-of-ways. I asked Tim to go out there, and he did today. So right now, the current easement for the road commission is 33 feet. And the current sidewalk that's at Bradley Street is 30 feet. So we have 3 more feet, so if we follow that up, we're good, but we might have a problem at the church, because that's where the trees, there's a sign and a utility pole there. So we might have to negotiate with the church for that right-of-way. That's why I bumped it up.
It was just a thought. Have we asked the school what it would take to get those children that would be walking there just on a bus route? So that our villagers would not be essentially paying another school tax. That
They
only
already
the
have a
villagers
safe
would
route
pay.
to school established for all their walkers, and the kids are supposed to go down to the light,
System
right?
Chandler, or, yeah.
And
So then
the
this
problem
would
is
be
that
more
they
of a-
don't. And so.
So is this a courtesy or
proactively
is this an insist?
For,
Because if there is a safe way to go, is this more of a courtesy on our part, or?
yes, I think it's more of an addressing a longstanding issue of safety, because I know that the kids are not walking from Bradley Street down to Sisson to cross the street and then go back up.
No.
So let's give them a safe place to walk. And I did speak with Sam Praviti. Him and I met for another 425 issue for a water agreement, and they're going to try and fast track it to connect the church or Copperwood Commons all the way down to Applewood.
Right.
But they need 19 right-of-ways to do that. So they're going to have a little more work than we will. So we don't have any jurisdiction to make them do that, but I asked them, what we could get maybe a cost savings, at least on the contractor, if he was pouring all the concrete at
Yeah,
one time.
do it out.
So I was gonna get the date when their sidewalk committee was meeting and attend that meeting and make the request that we sort of fast track that area. And I think it was like number 42 on their list. But for me, it's more important because I
Now
see
it's-
the kids
Now
not
it's a
walking.
middle school.
Right.
You got younger kids.
Yeah. Yep.
So the crosswalk is gonna fall in the village, but the school's in Bruce, right?
Well, the school's in Bruce Township, yes. The sidewalk would be on the Washington Township side of the village, right, in the village.
All right, and none of the other townships would go in on that? Is that a possibility? Since basically everyone's going to utilize it?
Washington Township is paying their share of
They are,
connecting the
okay.
sidewalk there.
So that is, okay, that is happening.
Well, they have it on their list.
And I know
What their
that-
time frame is, I don't know.
Gotcha.
Washington did pay when the high school needed just transferred, they did pay for certain sidewalks over there. Just Washington Township did.
Okay.
At
That's
the new
what I-
high school.
Makes sense.
Right away is
Yeah.
but it's for good cause.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
People will.
So again, I'd rather be
kids
high
will
in
use
the
it more,
budget
so.
than have it be low and then it's gonna
Right.
be exceeding, we'll have to move some money around. So I thought it was safer to bump it up.
Yeah, no, I was just curious, like all of a sudden.
And the good thing about the
Agree.
sidewalk is it services, a lot of people will use it too, just adults, to come to town from there.
Right.
It gets used by everyone, so it's not just to benefit the kids.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone.
Since we're in that section, I would like to, I know Zach's not here today, but the storm drain that he brought up, I think that's been well neglected for a long time. If that issue down there is getting pretty bad.
I asked Mike McDonald to take a look at that. He said he would. He was going to pull out the roads and then calculate what the cost would be. He hasn't gotten me that answer,
Okay,
but.
so it's something we can
I
look
did
at
ask
putting
him.
on too, making that a bold, maybe?
And what are the village improvements for the park? We talked about 50 grand there, but we didn't talk about what improvements. What are we thinking?
Well, I'd just like to revamp the park. I don't really have an idea in my mind. It's been talked about doing like a mini amphitheater maybe over there. Certainly something that would be ADA compliant, that would be a little better use of our space. There's so much wasted space behind that gazebo area where no one really can sit because, one, it's behind all the activity. I think it'd be great to have a small climber or a playscape. I talked to Claire about putting something there, an activity for the kids to do aside from climbing the trees or the picnic tables when they're there. Certainly I think there needs to be a security system, some sort of video camera system installed in there for safety. Apparently somebody plugged the lights in, so we know that there's some activity going on there.
Oops.
Yeah, so I don't really have a plan, but it's just been on my radar of things to do.
Well, could that maybe again be something where we get the plan before we spend the money? Maybe this could be a collaboration, start another subcommittee? Get the people involved with what we'd
Yep.
like to do.
Again, it's just a placeholder in the budget. If you think it's something that you want to see, then we'll put a placeholder in the
No, I
budget.
think
If
we
you
do.
don't, yeah, then we
Definitely
won't. Yep.
something. I don't know if it's this year. I think we need to get this going first and see what we could come up with and what kind of ideas and quotes.
And maybe it's kind of like when I suggested the roads, and Bob said put $5,000 in, to get things rolling on the vote. Maybe we need to put some money aside to get somebody to design.
Yeah.
That's a good
so
idea.
that
I like
when-
that.
Otherwise, we'll never get to that decision point.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
So
I like
maybe,
that.
So I did
don't know if
locate
it's
I did locate the plans. The last improvement to the park was in 2004. Hubble Roth and Clark designed the current scape. So I, asked Catherine, what can you find in the archives? And she gave me a whole box and all the plans were there. So as part of my conversation with Mike McDonald, I mentioned that we had that and asked if he could see if he still had that in their database of projects, and could we come out and meet and just see what could we do?
Yeah.
So-
Wouldn't it be something with our master plan? Like, what does the master plan have a forecast for that space?
For it just to stay a park, and there really wasn't any plan for Clara at the Parks and Rec to invest any new money into it, although she's sort of been handling the gazebo, but again, it's at a state of, starting to show its age. She's willing to paint it, but I don't know that paint really solves the issue. So they're not gonna budget to take this over as part of our park, so I think it's on us or the DDA or, some other sort of community effort group to
Just for
do.
budget purpose, what happens if we just expand the use, and whether it's the 50, but if you just put village property improvements, something, public space improvements, so it could go beyond just what the park is, but at one time the DDA was talking about the alleyway that was across the way from Starkweather. That is on our master plan, that would be not a thoroughfare, and I know that's just pointing it out, but that would be our property, and if there was something, we might have some money to just improve public space.
Taylor Alley,
And that way,
And there are
it's
grants
not-
for those sorts of things.
Maybe it ends up being parking lot. I mean, maybe we've, find some way, and we've got 50 grand in the budget, so instead of putting it in the park, maybe we can find some place that we could, use that for parking. If
Just
I've
public space.
been part of
We need it.
discussions where just pave the village park and make it a parking lot.
The quotes that I
And
brought-
take the old school and make that the village park on Prospect Street.
Yeah.
And that would be a much larger piece
It
of
would.
property.
I actually spoke with Clara about that today, about her negotiating with Todd, while it's just a green space, about turning that into a dog park, because there's a lot of people that want a dog park in the village of Romeo, and while it's just grass, I think that's probably a good dumping ground.
Those are
No
fun.
pun intended.
No.
Right, no,
I
it's
took my
huge.
dog. It's
Everybody
fun.
wants to take a walk, whether they're pushing a stroller or they're walking their dog, and so let's give them a good space to go to. So Clara thought that was a good idea, and I offered to sit down on any committee meetings with her to see if we can just utilize that space while it's not being, taught as
Well,
a
like you're
middle
saying,
school.
with the 50 grand for parking, those quotes that I proposed last year with the church parking lot were in that ballpark. Some of them a little higher, I think they were closer to 70. Some of them fit right in there. So if we're willing to spend it on updating the park, why not start working on that parking?
The whole linchpin with anything with that church parking would be getting an agreement with the postal workers that they would use it. Otherwise, it's, if they would all use it, if we could talk to the postmaster and he would decree that they are gonna park over there, and if that could be done, that makes that a
Well,
more
and I did
plausible.
speak with him, and he cannot make them.
Right.
He can request it just like he requests that where they currently park, they don't park in the gazebo area that they would park on the street. And they do, apply, So I don't see why parking in front of a house on the street would be any farther or closer than the parking lot in the church.
I
It's
just-
essentially,
yeah, if they would use it or not, it's,
Right.
that's the problem, that's the rub there.
well, we won't know until we try.
To try.
Right.
Well,
So we can do the
we just
parking
spend the
study.
money and then see if
Right.
they use it as,
Right.
a
We can-
crapshoot.
We can do the parking study, which is probably gonna look at, switching from parallel to angle, from installing metered parking, look at enforcing the signage that's already there that says it's 3-hour parking. We don't, have a program in place really to do that
Well,
on
and
a
that could be
regular
the way that
basis.
you get the postal workers.
Right.
When you open the parking lot, really start enforcing the 3-hour out in the
Limited,
village
yeah.
park. And then you don't enforce it over there in that parking lot.
Right. So I'm gonna suggest that we leave that 50 grand in there, whether or not we wanna take off the tag park or just say village, right,
Village park and just put it for public spaces improvement.
whatever that ends up being. Okay,
I mean, the property that we have control of,
okay.
does that work?
Yeah. I just need, again, I need some directives on what to tell them.
Yeah.
So a lot of these projects are already gonna be funded. The mid-block crossings, we're now obligated for that 90,000. You know, I think we have to continue with the sidewalk repair program. That's pretty successful. We have to do the 141,000 for the tip project over on Powell. We're already committed to that. Well, number 5 for the new well installation, we're already committed to do that. So a lot of these numbers, you know, Tim's already gonna have to put in the budget. So it's just
But with
more
the
of,
sidewalk, in our budget, we are over 50 grand currently with our current year sidewalk program.
but we still haven't accounted for all the revenue that needs to come back. So the homeowners that have had the sidewalk done, it's already been replaced, and we've already paid the contractor, but we haven't received all that money back. So we're looking at a plan of how we're gonna collect the outstanding amounts.
And what is our plan this year with the sidewalks? What, do we have a corridor plan, streets that we're focusing on?
Well, it's gonna be my recommendation that we do all of St. Clair, at least westbound St. Clair, because if we're gonna connect the sidewalk up there, we're gonna get a much better rate from Jeff if he's gonna do all the way down, because it's pretty much both north and southbound, north and south sides of St. Clair westbound. Because I think eastbound is okay. Eastbound needs to be edged. I think we'd get a lot more sidewalk if it
Well,
was
the north
edged.
side was just recently done, I mean, not
Yes.
recent, but.
Yes, with the road improvement, so that sidewalk is in pretty decent shape going eastbound from the corner.
And would the cemetery pay for all of the cemetery side?
I think that's not in there. I think that's technically our easement, the village easement, so I don't think that would come out of the cemetery budget. So,
Did we ever follow up or do anything, we're talking about sidewalks, I think Megan had made a suggestion on sending out like questionnaires or something to people that have had it already done with the current process and get some feedback from the residents. I know I had a few other residents reach out to me this past couple of weeks about some issues that they had had with like mess and stuff being left in the yards, and some of their squares are crooked and they're not even lined up with the current squares and stuff like that. So maybe we could follow up with that and just get a good feedback before we start the process up again in the spring or summer.
well, the
on what we
sidewalk,
can
the
improve on.
subcommittee's gonna meet here shortly and sort of develop that plan for communication, how to communicate it better with our ordinance for you know, moving forward. We're learning a little bit here
Yeah,
and
no,
there.
I
Every year
think, but
we
I think
do
the
it, so-
questionnaire idea was a great, to get good feedback from the people that are experiencing it in their front yards. Like, hey, I like this, I didn't like this.
I think that Nathan had a pretty good handle on it last year because he, you know, spoke in person to, you know, to all the homeowners. And when there were questions or concerns, either, you know, I went out there or the contractor went out there or Nathan went out there to sort of look at each individual case, because there wasn't anything that really fit in the same box for each home that we did. Everyone's a little bit different and
Yeah,
unique.
no, I can
so-
respect that. I think in the big scheme, yeah, it turned out well, but there are a few issues with, you know, unlevel areas based on driveways and trip hazards and stuff that we should probably look at addressing for the next phase.
So with that said, I want to be mindful of the time here. What do we want to do? I have some notes about the columbarium. I have the 5,000 for the ballot proposal. We're
So I'm
gonna
assuming
remove the
anything that's
wage
not-
and salary compensation. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, anything that's not bolded is something that's probably not going to make it onto the current.
For this year, and then when we
Okay.
have our budget workshop, when we look
Yeah.
at the budget, we can certainly, you know, direct changes. But
But like you're mentioning on Dickens, if there's
Yeah.
no, you know, you'll know what the cost is and
Yeah.
what the deal is, and then we can see if it's something that could, go through and budget.
Yeah.
But we did add the columbarium, to at least put that there, but
Mhm.
it can always be moved. I mean, which is for us to take a best guess of what our priorities are. But we can always not do something and do something else,
And then, if we move forward, is this going to include, the ordinance and policies are still on the last page with the blight ordinance, rental ordinance. We're going to see revised ordinances before we approve those too, right? Because I know we talked about revisions to those.
Yeah, there's nothing on, it was just something that we talked about goals and objectives, so I sort of kept it on the list, but there's obviously no cost associated with that, just still on the list of things to accomplish, but it doesn't relate to the budget
Yeah, I just
per
wanted
se.
to, make sure we were going to see them again before they just went into effect.
I would like to touch, though, on, under general fund, on the digital, getting all of the meeting minutes out there and getting the packets out there digitally. I don't see why it doesn't need, there's no price. I mean, I scanned them and made a PDF. I can even do that myself and share it with you and have you put it out there that way if you'd like.
Right, so, but the digital meeting packets, the upload, there is that software that Catherine was referring to, and I think if we bring that price back, it would make it a lot easier. It's very user-friendly, would make it easier on the staff. And then all of the board secretaries that would take the minutes for all the commissions and boards would be able to upload that, so that, it's not Catherine's responsibility to do that, but purchasing that software would, I think, achieve what you want and make it friendly for all the boards.
Well, it just concerns me because if we're talking about this will not get done in this term, that's another year. We figure something else out in the
Again, it
new
doesn't,
year.
it doesn't mean that we're not going to do the project. If we can keep talking about it and adding it to the agenda when we have the information. I can pencil in zero money and it can be in the budget at $0, or I can pencil in $10,000 and say, Tim, find $10,000 for digital meeting packets, if you want me to make up a number. So I don't know the number right now, so that's why I don't know what to put in there. If we decide we're gonna do it for free, then it doesn't affect
But
what
when-
budget that we're gonna see.
How about when you get back with it, bring it back to us? I'm good with that.
Okay, we can do that.
When we're talking the digital board packet, you were referring to just basically scanning them and uploading them to the Village Hall website so that the residents could see them prior to the meeting? Is that, or is it for us to have them digitally?
It would be for both.
Does it have to be for both, or can we just scan them and upload them to a PDF link on our agenda on the calendar saying, here's the board packet that's going to be this week or this month, so that the residents can access it prior to the meeting?
Right, yeah.
Does
Right.
anybody else do that?
Yes.
As far as, where they put all that information up there? Because I'm thinking, like, if you have all the different bids, all the different
Correct.
things, sometimes just seeing the board packet without other information sometimes could be.
Well, it's public information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean. but do
Washington
they, like,
Township
for
does it.
instance,
Many
Washington
municipalities do
Township,
it.
I'm just asking, as you're just saying that, in Washington Township, can I see the board packets?
Yes, you can. You
The
can
whole
pull it
board
all up
packet?
online and you can go look at it, yeah.
Okay, and before the meeting, I can see their board packet?
I don't know if it's before the meeting, but you can go online and see the packets.
Okay.
You can see what kind of software they use. You can call them.
I'll-
We can look at that.
I was just
Yeah.
curious.
So really, there would be no cost to that, I would assume, right? Basically, just putting them on the scanner, scanning them into a PDF file, and uploading them to the website, or to the calendar, or
Well,
wherever we
again,
decide to put that.
I would caution you that it's not just a 5-minute thing.
Oh, I didn't- I don't think I ever said
right.
5 minutes.
There's some,
Yeah.
there's
No,
some time
it's been
involved.
implied.
Significant amount of time. We spend, on a board meeting week, between Catherine, myself, and the office staff, making copies, drafting the ordinance, drafting the agenda, probably a good day and a half just to get these packets done. Adding another several hours of work probably to scan and upload it. It's a significant request, and so we need to make sure we're looking at that cost, because there is cost, whether it's for the software or whether it's for the clerk's time to do that. And then this, the question comes into play. She's just doing this board's packet. You want to see the planning commission? That's Cindy's time to do that, right? She doesn't have the skill set necessarily to scan and upload to the website. So there's more components that we really need to take a peek at. I don't have any issue if anybody wants to put it on their social media page or upload it, or you want to scan and do whatever you want to do with your podcast. I have no problem with the information being out there. I'm just trying to do it through legitimate resources and tools that municipalities use with the limited staff that we have. So.
Right, and also, as we mentioned last week, if we were going to do that electronically, put the board packets online, that's how you guys would get your board packets, all electronically. So that's where she has it right here, Village Board Chromebooks and or tablets. That's a cost that will come into play because it's either going to be, we're going to continue how it is, or it's going to be all electronic. And like she explained, there is a process behind doing these board packets you guys are not aware of. And it just doesn't take 5 minutes to upload everything. So it's going to have to be, you either want your paper packets, or it's all going to be electronic. And if we're going to go electronic, meaning electronic for you and the residents, devices as far as tablets or Chromebooks will be involved for you guys.
So if we decide as a board, and I'm sorry, that we just want this packet uploaded so that our residents can see it, you're going to say that, no, you can't have that unless you do everything else? You're going to make that call for us to say that that's how we're going to do it?
Oh, I'm not going to make that
one way
call
or
because
another?
I don't have a vote on the board, but I am just letting you
Well,
guys
that's what it
know
sounds
that
like you're telling us right now.
you guys are not aware of what goes on behind the scenes, and we're trying to streamline this process, and that's how the process would be streamlined for the benefit of those who are actually involved in this process.
All right, let's move on from this and move on, because we still have quite a bit of agenda to cover. So can I get a recommendation, a motion to just include the items that are bolded with the few changes that we did, so that I can give Tim and Catherine the directives of what to include?
Yeah, I would like to see the digital packets available for residents and what that
Okay.
would take.
So if we get that number, then I'll have Catherine, we'll pencil that in, and then we'll put it in the budget.
Thank you.
Okay, so, we have a motion. Anybody?
Motion to approve all the bolded and main minor changes that we've made.
Okay.
Support?
Bartholomew, Edwards, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's move on to new business. I have two agenda items that were placed on here by Al, who is not here. He texted me that he had an issue that came up, so I apologize. I don't have a lot of ability to answer any questions. I'll do what I can do. There are, the first one was the Romeo Biosolids Waste Hauler bids. This is, obviously, we have to have all the leftovers removed from our property. He does this once or twice a year, or as necessary. There are only two options, two haulers that do this scope of work, and so he has requested bids from both of those. And you have those names.
If we go by gallons, it was like
Right.
6.5 cents a gallon steady, and the other one came in like 5 something.
Yes.
Now, did Al make a recommendation on, is he comfortable with both vendors and
I don't
anything?
believe he said it mattered to him which one that what we chose.
So we
Do
can
we
go
currently
cheapest.
use which one?
I believe it's Biotech
Is the cheapest, yes,
is the one that currently does it.
and they were less. So we have two options, and Al doesn't care which one, so we can go cheapest.
Yep.
All right, I'll make a
Especially if
motion
they're
to
the
go
ones
with
we've been going
Biotech.
with.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that motion, please?
Mr. Hart's motion was to go with the Biotech proposal.
Thank you.
And that was supported by Parker?
That's correct.
Okay.
And they're both for 3 years, right? It was a 3-year, we're doing a 3-year contract.
Yep.
All right, that's my motion.
Okay. go ahead and call the roll.
All right. Hart,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
President Malzahn.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, and then you have the digester boiler cleaning. So you have the bid from Watson Brothers. They were hoping to do this work themselves. As they got into it, there was some proprietary issues, and so the gentlemen out the wastewater treatment plant aren't able to do the work themselves. So Watson's proposal was for $4,250 to come out and do that cleaning.
Did we look at reaching out to anyone else, get any other?
They're the ones that own it, unfortunately.
Oh.
So that's why we didn't really have any choice.
Oh, so we have no.
Yes. Unless we want to get a whole new boiler, yeah.
I'll make the motion that we go with Watson Brothers Company at the amount of $4,250.
Okay.
Support.
Motion by Bartholomew. We have support by Poznanski. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bartholomew,
Yes?
Poznanski,
Yes.
President Malzahn,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
and Hart.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, next up on the agenda is the President Pro Tem. Trustee Parker brought it to our attention that we should have done this back in November, which we didn't do. I just got comfortable with having Matt sort of at the ready whenever I needed, which thankfully hasn't been. So you did a terrific job.
Yeah,
And I'm going to make a motion that we extend him the courtesy of another term as President Pro Tem. So that's my motion.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Malzahn, we have support by Parker. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I should say, I did ask him before I just made that motion, if he was willing to do that again. Okay, we have trustee Poznanski's asked to have the publication of the minutes placed on the agenda. So I believe she emailed out some information to everybody.
Yes, and then I also gave it to you just in case you didn't get the email, so.
I got the email,
That's
but
what's
a
on
lot
there.
of it didn't really come through.
Okay.
The
That-
cover page did, this page, and then this record page came through very badly, and the rest were just black.
Okay, well, that's why I wanted to print it off for all of you so that we'd all have it. Basically, I want to start back with, in September, the first one, the meeting minutes from September 18th. If you flip it over, there was a motion made to continue to post the meeting minutes in the record. This motion passed. Yet somehow, if you look in one of the record, we stopped posting our minutes. The last invoice we have is from April of 2020. So I proposed this question beginning in December. We weren't quite sure why. I asked again in January. They couldn't get it in on time. So I'm proposing it here because I would like to see our meeting minutes, again, posted in the record newspaper like we all decided.
So there was some discussion, and I went back and I reviewed this meeting because I was present at this, and I remember having lengthy discussions and some heated battles over the publication of the minutes. And we were requesting that the administrator or clerk at the time, Mike, only publish a synopsis because the meeting minutes in totality, as he would draft them, were being published before they were approved at the board level. So we noted that there were some inconsistencies and some errors, but they were already in print in the record. So we had an issue with that because then we couldn't get a retraction being printed, or if it was, it was a small little note in a different section of the paper. So we didn't think that was fair to have the meeting minutes out there. There was also great discussion about printing or publishing a synopsis, not the minutes. So the discussion from Edwards, who ultimately made the motion that you have copied today, but the discussion was to get just a synopsis of the meeting published, which would include date, time, place, the agenda item, and then the dissenting votes with the dissenting voter's name listed, because I believe that was your request to have noted who made, right, what it was, and then who voted no so that it was clear. And so why the minutes that were approved from that meeting used the word minutes, not synopsis, was a clear oversight by all of us that approved these minutes, because the discussion on camera
I'm
was
not asking for all of the
a
minutes.
synopsis. Right, so I just want to be clear. So we're
No,
talking
a
about a
synopsis.
synopsis, not the minutes
No,
being
that would be
published.
that would be costly and it's unnecessary. But
Mm-hmm.
the synopsis should be printed in our record newspaper.
Well, again, the
That
synopsis.
was not the motion, though.
Right, that's not what the motion, that was, but, okay, we understand what the topic was for, and so we can certainly clarify that. I have honestly an issue, and again, at that meeting and meetings prior to September 18th of 2017, is it necessary to publish at all? It is not a requirement for a general law village to publish. We do have the option to post in 3 public locations. And that was also part of the discussion. Is this an expenditure that we really needed to make at the time? Technology was just coming about. There was still some question about how many people had access to internet, how many people, could watch the meetings live streamed, or go back and watch them on Vimeo. Technology has certainly changed since 2017. And I think everybody is getting their news information really from the internet these days, not reading local newspapers.
Not our elderly community. We have a lot of elderly community that would be doing a disservice to if they had to walk to read it or to go onto social media. They just don't.
Yep, well, they can request it, they can go on to Vimeo and they can request a full transcript of the meeting. So we don't have to even wait for it to come out to guess whether it's going to be in the record or whether it be in the Macomb Daily. Again, we have the latitude that it's the clerk's responsibility to have the synopsis or meeting minutes published within a certain time frame after the meeting. And when
that's
that
the
work
biggest-
gets done, right.
I think that's the biggest time frame, or the biggest issue with the record is the timing. We have.
It's the same time frame as the Macomb Daily.
Is it? Because I heard it was
That's
completely different.
that's why I proposed the calendar, the last page. It's you can get it Friday by 5. So if you want to do this Friday, you want to do next Friday, she could fit them in. They did it up until April of 20. Didn't have a problem until after that.
But they are being published. The obligation has been met.
Yeah, but I think it should be in the
And
local
it's been in the Macomb
paper.
Daily. So we're
So I
talking
would like
about
to
it
make a
now.
motion that we put a synopsis of our meeting minutes in the local record newspaper.
I'll support.
Okay. And so as we're continuing discussion, we have a motion on the table by Poznanski. We have support by Parker.
So just to clarify, in 2017, what was written in these minutes, you're saying is not correct?
Well-
The conversation from the meeting
Yeah.
was for the publication of a synopsis, not the minutes. The word minutes is confusing because
Okay.
we approve minutes each month, and they are several pages long. We never
Respectful,
wanted the
yeah.
minutes published, we wanted
a
a
synopsis.
synopsis of them. But this record that Megan copied from 2017, the motion
Yeah.
uses the word
But
minutes.
you clarified that there was already a motion made to publish the synopsis in the record,
No,
and it was
there's not.
voted and
No, the
approved.
discussion centered around a synopsis and trying to clarify for the clerk at the time, what did we mean by synopsis? The motion that ended up being drafted in the minutes that you see in front of you uses the word minutes being published, not synopsis.
What was the driving force between moving from the record to using the Macomb Daily?
That's why I thought it was the timing issue.
It's timing, because Macomb Daily has a 24-hour turnaround for publications. 48 at the absolute max.
Part of the other issue for last month, and you did ask for clarification of what those 2 bills were for, that you provided copies. One was for a public hearing for our CDBG funds, and Catherine, in her best judgment, utilized the Macomb Daily because most of the applicants for that funding operate at the county level. not
And I'm
necessarily
not
out of
saying
Romeo, so that's
that
why.
there won't be times where exceptions are appropriate.
Right, so including the word record, and citing a source in the motion right now certainly limits us. If there are going to be exceptions, then you should just say we're going to continue publishing the synopsis in a record of our newspaper of general circulation, which is what the requirement for the general
But the
law
meeting
village
minutes
is.
won't need an exception. The type of things you're talking about aren't included in that motion.
I respectfully disagree based on the timing and the job duties of what's going on in that office, whether or not
How many-
it's available.
How many days do we have to publish?
You have 15 days after a council meeting to have a synopsis of the entirety of the proceedings
15
available. Yep, and then,
So how long does it take Catherine to print them out, to get them ready?
well, you have 8 days, wait, where's the 8-day one? It's in,
Oh, May.
which paper that is?
So what day does, how many days a week does this record come out?
You could get it.
One day.
You could put
Monday?
One day a
Tuesday.
week.
Friday at 5 is the deadline. And they've even said they would work with us if we needed to do it a little later.
So,
So what concerns me
Yes.
is we stopped in April, and then in May, we started working with the Macomb Daily. In May, we approved the AT&T lease. In May, we approved the cemetery mills. In May, we increased the water rates.
And it wasn't.
Is that why we stopped working with the local newspaper? We wanted it farther away from the people. In July, marijuana, moved forward with Village to City. Are these,
No.
is it, you don't want the people to have their information? You want it farther away?
Well, one, a copy of the minutes are always available. You know, anybody can request it, right? It is published, again, for the general law village. Catherine is looking, wanting to make a comment. I can see it on her face, so.
Well, no, I just don't understand. The Record's not the only newspaper being circulated in Romeo, so I don't understand what the emphasis is on just the Record.
Right.
Why is that emphasis? I did reach out to publisher Larry and, editor Larry, and asked for number of subscribers in the 48065 zip code so we can compare. You know, how many subscribers do we have? How many people is this really reaching? And he refused to answer that. He just sent me a notification
It's
saying
in
this
this
is how you
letter right
post in the
here.
paper.
Circulation
I just don't
approximately
understand. If somebody could
5,100
explain to me,
subscribers.
if somebody can explain to me why the emphasis is on the Record over the other newspaper in the area, Macomb Daily. And if we
It
can
says in the paper I
compare
gave you,
subscribers.
Catherine.
Well, I didn't get that email. I was just given
I
this
gave it to you.
upon,
It's on your desk.
right, but I'm taking the minutes.
5,100 subscribers.
How many?
5,100.
That's how many in the 48065?
That's what it says.
Right.
there's not-
Okay,
No,
that's
it
not an
doesn't
exact
say.
number of 48065 addresses. I would need that information, please.
They have a 5,100 subscribers, but it could be all over Macomb County. Could be
Right.
Washington Township. It could be,
People out of state.
I asked and he did not answer my question, so I'm waiting for that information. And then I also have, I reached out to him a few
Can I ask
weeks
Mark a
ago.
question? I guess it's based on the
I
2017.
was asking a question, but that's okay.
In the minutes here, I mean, there was a resolution made and voted on. Is that not something we should stand by?
Well, resolutions can be made, resolutions can be rescinded, new resolutions can be made. So a resolution made, unless rescinded or altered, should be followed, but you're also able to change your resolution. So you should follow your resolutions until they're amended,
President Mills.
rescinded, or otherwise changed.
So if this motion went into place and it hadn't been changed, rescinded, altered in any way, this is something we should have been abiding by.
You should follow your resolutions. That's why you make them. That's
Thank
the
you.
order of your business. You act either by resolutions or by ordinances.
Thank you.
yes.
Okay, but going back to that, the motion was for minutes. So I reached out to Larry a few months ago and asked him, I sent over a set of minutes, which was, I think, about 5 pages. And I said, okay, so if we're going to publish minutes, how much does it cost to publish minutes? The minutes I gave him were 38 column inches. So in newspaper world, I'm like, what is that, a half a page? And it was $333.26. So I just don't see how cost-effective it is to print minutes, and that's what the motion says, minutes. Minutes
it
are
says
anywhere
here,
from 5
but-
to 6 pages.
I'm sorry, but to clarify, you said the actual motion made on camera
Says
No.
minutes.
was for synopsis.
The motion is stated correctly on here.
Yes,
Matt's motion
and it was approved.
is correct.
The meeting minutes were approved as such. Nobody made the,
The discussion was not using the word minutes. The discussion was using the word synopsis. So I
So the
wanted to
motion was
Meeting
made
minutes-
wrong,
clarify.
It just wasn't printed wrong. The motion was made wrong, is what you're saying.
Correct.
So I didn't need clarification on that. I thought you said that it was printed wrong here.
No, no.
and that's an expensive expenditure monthly to do over $300 worth of minutes.
There is no assumption to your pointed question of some sort of bias or some sort of lack of transparency, some sort of effort to show preference one way or the other to the newspaper. It is at Catherine's sole discretion under the time frame and the general village law to have them published, which she has done. It's not been in the record, in the paper that you would obviously prefer it be printed in, but it has been done. So we are certainly in compliance with the law.
So
But
can I ask then,
it does
have
say
we ever then
specifically
followed
record,
this?
so
Wait,
Fully?
don't over-talk each other.
I guess
Go
I
ahead,
would
Matt.
be willing to, give the record a try. I mean, this specifically does say the record, so kind of hard
Right.
to.
Can I speak to this?
I always thought we changed because it was a timing issue.
It is a timing issue, and so again, not citing in a motion
But
the use
I
of
have
the
a paper
record
here where
gives Catherine the latitude
the
to
board-
utilize whichever paper she needs to.
Another board had a meeting the same night as we did, Tuesday, February 16th, and their minutes are posted in the paper. So they fit it in, it is possible to fit it in the time frame.
It is, if she ran home from the meeting and drafted the minutes tonight and got them approved by me, because I have to approve them first, and got them submitted.
Or a
I'm not
synopsis,
suggesting
right?
that it's not impossible to do it. What I'm suggesting is that it's her workload. She has a time frame of which to adhere to. We both do, and it hasn't worked out. It's been her right and decision to publish it in the Macomb Daily.
So
And that's
should
certainly
we be
compliant.
working back on Fridays then? Do we need that extra day in the week in the office to get stuff done?
We? You mean us? No.
So, no.
No, because the Macomb Daily's been accommodating. Macomb Daily meets my
Yeah, but I guess
the
based on what
requirements.
Mark just told us, if this was the resolution made, and if we're clarifying that we've never posted the minutes on Foley, one, we're not following the resolution made, and then secondly, we've let it slide and we've just done the synopsis, is that right? Up till April of, what'd you say, 20? We did a synopsis.
20. I would have to go back and look at every paper to know what was printed. I'm certain from 2017 moving forward, there were some times that the minutes were actually published, because again, it was a point of contention whether or not we're publishing the minutes or the synopsis. But I'm looking at these times and they're changing, and that we don't have to publish them at all, synopsis or not.
Can I speak?
Yes.
All right, because that was actually, a meeting I attended and a meeting motion that I actually voted yes on. And I did go back. It's very easy to go back to see all of our meetings, go to this date right on
Yeah.
my phone, and I can go right in and I can see what was said.
Yeah.
The gist of, not to belabor this, but it was more of the point of Matt, when he was saying the words, he even said that he wanted them to state what was being done and then who the dissenting votes were. And we approved this, and that's it. At the time, the clerk and president wanted to use the record. That was the paper they wanted to use, and I don't think that was really the point of contention. This is back, first of all, I don't think that we should limit or micromanage the office to tell them where they have to do it. We just want them to be compliant. So I think the question is whether or not we want to have it in a newspaper. We had a big discussion back in 2017 or 16 whether that needed to be, and that was something I looked up, and I was the one that was bringing it to the board, and I think it was a close vote by one that we continued at that point to do it in the paper. I appreciate everything that Megan had put together. She put together a lot of information. I looked to see if the minutes were on, for February, were on our website, and I didn't see it. Our approved minutes from January were on there, but not our proposed ones. As the language says, there's a time frame to have the proposed minutes, full minutes, that we would have our residents to be able to look at, to be able to get it off of our website, to be able to look at the actual meeting and see that is so easy to get to. In 4 years, so much has changed that us limiting for the dollar amount, just the synopsis to put what a motion was and who voted against, why not have people be able to look at the full minutes that are proposed? I don't think we should have to put this in a paper whatsoever. I think put it at the community center, put it at the village hall, put it at the library right in the village. We're a square mile. It's not a long walk. I'm not sure what, the record. I just don't think we need to put that in a newspaper at all. I just think the time has come.
Right, if we're going to look at purchasing a software that allows all of the minutes to be uploaded online, the cost savings from not publishing the synopsis, we still obviously have the requirement of publicizing public hearings, and that's a whole different ball game, but the money spent on publishing a synopsis, I think, could pay for that software in a budget year. I don't have that total number yet, but I think if we add up $200 or $300 a month in publishing the synopsis, I think we could certainly save way more than that by just utilizing this online software tool. And now if you have your podcast and you're gonna upload to your social media page, anybody can share that. I've seen it shared on social media. I do think that it's getting out there utilizing some other free sources, so.
The one point, as far as the minutes, the proposed minutes, as the statute says, need to be available in a timely manner. Is that something we can do? That we can go to the village website and there's the proposed, you can watermark it with unapproved, but can we get those up in a quicker time frame?
And we can, yes. Yes.
And having it that way.
To get the draft done.
I think there's very few people that would
The
not
draft
be
is
able to
done
get that.
and available for anybody who wants to come in and see it per
Right.
the ordinance, but they are not
Right.
uploaded to the website until the minutes are approved at this
Correct.
board level. Again, just
do you
trying to
have a
make sure
problem-
that the information.
Do you have a
is out
problem?
there.
Because instead of doing the newspaper, then we have the full minutes that we put up on there, that if it's the 8 days or what is proposed, that we would have that on our website?
Yes,
15 days.
I mean, is there any reason that we wouldn't want to do that? If, I know putting the synopsis on there, but the full minutes, if we're going to put the full minutes on there, and people can have the right to come down to the office and have it, I say put it up on the website and they have the full thing there.
Yeah, it would be an
Yeah.
unapproved draft.
And my parents are in their 80s, and they use a computer all the time. They've got it down. A lot of older people, by no choice of their own, they've had to learn how to use a computer and that, so.
Yeah. No, I respect that. I know my father's in his 60s and he can't even send a text, so it's quite difficult for some people.
But we still put in 3 different places, right? So it's posted.
Has it
The
always?
synopsis would be posted, we have the notice box that's right outside of the door here of our meeting room, so we can certainly post it there. We could post it, obviously, in the village hall window. We could choose to post it at the Kezar Library or at
Why not just do the
another
proposed minutes though?
location.
Under that comment, like as the widow's reading in the law, they see the proposed. You put the proposed unapproved,
Because they're 5 or 6, 7 pages long.
but I mean, if we're gonna print those.
Online, right. But
No, but if we're gonna print those and put 3 copies, put one at the library, put one at the community center, and it could be 5 or 6 pages, but there's the minutes. It doesn't have to be a motion and who did that, and put it up on the website. So
I don't know that
everybody
that
gets
would
the
work
full motion.
outside the door, because that's just a defined
They can
area
see
of
the one
boxes.
side.
Right, you could only see the front. Right, I see what you're saying, they are all stapled together, and there's a push pin through,
Right.
a packet of pages. I can certainly see that working in a few of the locations, but I don't know that that would work
Right.
here. But we could put it at the desk, probably,
Right.
in the Parks and Rec office, still a
Right.
public location.
Yeah, so I think we can get it out there, and more than just a motion and dissenting votes.
Of the synopsis.
And a good point, it saves the money that we could put towards the software to do what everybody wants.
All right, so we have a motion on the table by Poznanski, supported by Parker, to publish the minutes in the record.
Synopsis.
The synopsis of the meeting, right? You used the word synopsis. Okay, in the record. You cited the record.
Yes.
Okay, is your motion standing?
Yes.
Okay.
Before we vote, can we, instead of making a new motion, can we just alter the current motion that's already been, make a motion to?
That's what I asked her if she wanted it to stand or not, and she said
It's
yes.
only up to her.
Okay.
So, all right, can you call the roll for me?
Poznanski,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
excuse me, Bartholomew,
No.
President Malzahn,
No?
Edwards,
Yes.
Hart.
No.
That's a tie, motion fails.
I'm going to make a motion to post the meeting minutes, the full meeting minutes, within the proper time frame in 3 locations within the village, and cease publication in a newspaper source.
I'll support.
Motion by Malzahn, we have support by Hart. Any discussion on that? Can you call the roll, please?
President Malzahn,
Yes?
excuse me, Hart,
Yes.
Poznanski,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Hart. Oh, I'm sorry, Parker.
No.
Motion carries 4-2.
Could you state that motion one more time?
The motion was to cease publication of the synopsis in a newspaper and post the full meeting minutes in 3 areas, public areas within the village.
So the the minutes will be posted in full in the time frame that the synopsis should have been published or posted?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess,
moving on.
wasn't that part of the issue with not posting the full minutes before they were approved in a paper? Was that there was,
We're going to watermark it draft, as Hart suggested, so everybody knows that it's a draft version. And if there are corrections to the minutes, then we will make those, and that'll be in the minute books.
okay.
And
I just
what
wanted to
Megan
clarify,
had
because I
put
know that you said
together-
that was part of the issue with publishing
Yep.
the unapproved minutes, was that there was changes that needed to be
You should
made.
watch that meeting. Watch the meeting, you'll see what all the discussion was there. It's pretty interesting.
All right, the last item on our agenda is ordinance number 523, which is our peddlers, solicitors, transient merchant, and sales from a public space permit. And I know Matt worked on this ordinance
Yeah.
forever, back in
I
the
wrote
day.
this one, with
Yes.
more than a lot of help from Mark.
Yes, we did.
Oh, you helped too? Yes. That's right.
And so this,
I'll claim it, but.
right, we all voted for it, and I don't have an issue with the ordinance per se, although I think that eventually we may need to revisit that for specific uses. The reason that I mention this is we have food truck season coming up, and we had a food truck vendor that was parked at the Shell gas station that created a little bit of controversy in our community. And the biggest issue that I had with it was a single $60 fee for a 3-month period. I'm sorry,
$60 for every 3
3
for
months.
every 30-day period, and they're allowed up to 3 30-day periods.
Yes, okay.
So
So-
$60 for 30 days.
Right, so I didn't think that was adequate, giving the extra resources that we have to expend for a food truck or a transient merchant of some sort of vendor to come into our community for a 30-day calendar period for a 30-day fee or a $30 fee. So I said, let's put this on the agenda, ask council members, what do you think is an appropriate charge for this? I think ultimately that the ordinance may need to be revisited so that these merchants aren't going on private property, they're going only on municipal property, and in the lots. I think it.
Were there other restaurants in that complaining about this, or?
Well, there was complaints all over the place, not necessarily from the restaurants alone. There was some traffic issues that we had with backups
Dangerous.
You know, a distraction of, you know, a line of people, you wonder what's going on over there, and before you know it, you know, the light's green and somebody's beeping behind you because you're not going forward, because you're wondering, what, tacos, that sounds good, maybe I'll get a taco for dinner.
Yeah, I guess-
Or whatever the
sorry.
product was. So, I did reach out to Kelly Stevens, from the DDA, and I said, look, I have this on the agenda, I'm just, you know, grabbing a number, what do you think would be an appropriate, you know, charge for somebody in the downtown district that's in such a prime visible location to be paying for a 30-day, you know, access to the visibility? And she suggested maybe 125 or 150 per 30-day period. So,
I would question, I know one of the biggest things I noticed when the food truck was in town was the overflow of the trash cans. So what would that cost be to have DPW doing extra trash pickup? Is it what, it's once a week now?
they do it on Fridays. Yep,
Once a week,
yep.
so, and if they're gonna be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and they're overflowing multiple times a day,
Yeah.
what kind of cost is that gonna put on?
Saturday and Sunday is overtime.
Yeah, so that would
And
definitely
it's
have
a
to be.
minimum of 4 hours that they
accounted,
get
yeah,
paid when
that's-
they come in, whether they're emptying one trash can or doing whatever, it's a minimum of
And
4
then-
hours of overtime,
And then we're gonna
so.
be taking up, it would be in public parking, so it's gonna take up additional parking spaces also?
Mm-hmm.
So
That the
that's-
businesses are even, we're looking into having them pay for more parking or getting that parking space assessment done, that these vendors won't pay for.
Right,
True.
Yeah.
yeah.
That was my point, was, our businesses are already paying the tax, you know, the DDA tax, and these people come in, they don't have to pay anything towards that, but yet get the benefits of all the people in business, so.
Right, they pay a small fee that basically just takes care of Catherine's time and a background check, right? So we make sure that they're licensed. And I think there certainly is a benefit for them to be here. And
I had tacos.
yeah, I had tacos too. They're good tacos. I'm
I
not
can't-
saying anything against the taco truck.
The people like it. There is a value there. I think if we just need to corral it and start putting down, like, I looked really quick at a couple municipalities. They have vendor districts where you're only allowed to be in a certain spot. You can't park overnight. You can't be serving between 3 a.m. and 8 p.m. There's a lot of rules there that we need to look at.
Right. So we can revisit this and we can call out that specific category instead of just a transient merchant, of somebody who's actually selling food or.
Address trash.
Right, or
Generating
beverage.
it,
But-
then they can cover
But
that.
while
it's
we
part
do
of the-
that work, we're still faced with, we have some pending, people who have come in that want to pull a permit starting in April. And so my fourth front is at least 4 now for this season. Let's pick a fee that's, appropriate so that at least there's some revenue that's going back for
Can
the
we
resources.
only make it applicable to office expense? Or can we make that bigger in taking into account DPW time and the other sorts of time?
We set the fee schedule for whatever, right?
If you're gonna require a fee, it has to be commensurate with the benefit that the village is providing. The processing of the paper through the office, the collection of trash, it has to be commensurate, because if not, if you set a fee as simply a revenue generator, then it becomes a tax, and it's an impermissible tax. It's an unauthorized tax. So the fee that you set has to be commensurate with the governance, if you will, that the village is providing with respect to the administration.
So, before we put a fee to it, we should find out our cost, is what you're
Well,
saying?
that would be my recommendation. You can, I don't want to diminish it. I don't want to say, well, you can guess at it, and if you're right, you're okay. If you are not right and somebody challenges it and you can't defend it, it can become problematic. And it doesn't, I don't want to say that it requires exaction to the penny or the nickel or the dime, but the benefit has to be commensurate to the fee that you're charging.
Like $1,000 would be way too much. It needs to be an
Probably
appropriate.
so.
Reasonable, right.
Probably so. But again, I
So
have.
4 hours of overtime for a DPW worker to come in on a Saturday or Sunday to empty the trash, it's gonna cost about $150 or $160. with the basic, average hourly rate. I don't know what it, takes, but I don't know, we've actually had to have an officer out there directing traffic. I think we've had some traffic issues where they may have, had a few accidents. I don't know that they were specifically caused just by the intersection or by the presence of the food truck, but, so we could have some police expenses, and then we have the office expense.
So we're looking at $150 per weekend, or once a weekend for DPW. I mean,
Right, but
what's
they're here for
600
4 weekends.
Yeah, that's $600 for 30 days,
Right.
right? That's,
So I'm suggesting that, that the fee should be, $150 or $200 for a 30-day period.
could we add provide own trash receptacle? If, you know?
I think that's the ordinance, though.
And take it with you?
If we have that, if you're
Right.
gonna have waste or whatever, provide rubbish.
They can provide it, but you can't make the patrons who are sitting on the park benches walk over
Put
and
it in
use
there.
it. They're gonna use the,
I can respect that. If it's
trash
there,
can
most
that's-
people will
that's
at least
close there.
attempt.
Right,
But
so,
the other thing I'd like to see is something that, like if it's food truck, I mean, they've gotta be licensed, right, or regulated through the county?
right, we do a background check.
Yeah, so, yeah, with the driver's license, but I didn't see anything in here where it said collect, like, copies of licenses or.
Right, there's another couple of pages that are actually on this permit application that I didn't give to you.
Oh,
I
okay.
just gave you the front because it has the fee schedule that we've been using.
So you need to get us to maybe, there's gonna be application coming through, and this is gonna be before we can do the ordinance or
Right.
work through some things. So you'd like us to bump the fee?
Yeah,
All right.
I would say even
$200
2 to
be okay
3,
with you?
somewhere in there.
250?
Yeah, 200, 250
Because if,
for a
if
whole month.
you're saying garbage just for a month is 6 something, cut it in half. I mean, if at least they're coming
Yeah.
out 1 to 2 times, that's not even
And that
still
doesn't even
office
cost
space.
cover clerical cost or anything like that either, so I mean, 300 would
So
probably be fair.
between that and one garbage dump, I think
Have we
we're
looked into
saying-
other municipalities and what they charge or do?
That's what I was gonna-
Can we ask Mr. Clark?
you could ask him, he might not have the answer, but yep.
With respect to a number,
Did you have any thoughts on that?
I have no opinion about the number, other than, and I apologize for repeating myself, it has to be commensurate with the fee that you're charging. And so if you assume you have these expenses, as you've discussed, I would caution against trying to recover them on one vendor. What if you get 6 vendors or 10 vendors? I don't know what the space is. So you have to, again, if your fee is not commensurate with the benefit or the service the village is providing, the processing, the public safety, the trash pickup, whatever it is, if it's not commensurate, it can be claimed to be a tax, and you can't levy a tax by a resolution tacked to your solicitors and peddlers ordinance.
So,
And just to mention that the ordinance itself does exclude specific times of the year, Peach Fest being one of them, where this isn't applicable for vendors coming in. I think sidewalk sales was the other one, and Peach Fest, I think those were the two.
And maybe harvest days. I know there were a couple of designated recurring holidays or periods in the village that were not covered by that.
I think Mr. Valente, did you ever input on this subject? I thought I saw your hand raised, no?
Yeah, I just was gonna mention that in other municipalities that I've been driving through over my years, they have a designated area like the Lions Field. You make a deal with the Lions Field, it's got its own parking, it's got its own venue.
Right.
And you just put up a few signs in town, taco trucks or street trucks this way. And it, 1, frees up our parking, 2, it gives us a fee schedule. They have everything we need there. They have water, sewer, electric. In my eyes, they can make a little money, we make a little money, and it's a win-win for everybody. I still get my tacos, you still get your fee.
Right.
And you don't have an accident on Main Street, which I witnessed myself while getting a taco. So these are all valid points, but I mean, Lions Field is dying over there because of COVID, and they're not making a lot of money. And I'm sure they're looking for a way to make some revenue. And I mean, and these vendors are gonna be a licensed and insured company, because they have to be, and they're inspected by the health department annually, so it's kind of a win-win, and it might be a good partnership.
Yes.
I like that idea.
Just a thought.
I agree, because the ordinance doesn't prohibit it from being on private property, which is why the owner of that establishment got $1,000 for allowing the truck to park there, and we got $60.
Right.
So we need to change the ordinance, because we didn't anticipate this. So we'll look at drafting that. Catherine, did you have something to add to the?
Oh, I just want to say I did some research on municipalities in Macomb County, and the average price for a food truck permit was anywhere between $75 and $150,
Okay.
because that's what we saw.
Is that per occurrence or for like a?
I'll throw a motion out there.
We didn't have a copy of their application.
Dollars
So we didn't
per
know
month,
the
that's
specifics.
$50 every 10
All
days.
right, thank you.
I think we
Okay.
can justify that.
So we have a motion by Hart.
Is that until we get further feedback
just for
and
now,
cost?
we'll
do
So
a
this
fee
is a
of
temporary
$100.
for,
We're gonna increase the fee.
till next month?
Well, we're increasing the fee right now to $150 if this motion passes.
Because we'll have to amend the ordinance and then bring it back. If we approve it, then it still has to be published, and then there's a waiting day period. So this
So we're
may
not
be for
touching the
more than
ordinance.
1 month, just so that you.
This
Okay.
is just a
that you
fee
know.
change,
Support.
and it'll be until we change something else.
Okay.
Okay.
Copy.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that motion?
That I would propose that we do increase the fee to $150 for 30 days.
Per 30-day cycle? Okay.
I'll support that.
Nope, that was Bartholomew.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear Nate supported that. Okay.
Gotta wait,
We're not,
future for second.
Do a roll
before I
call.
question.
Yep.
please.
Sorry.
Hart,
Would you, Hart, yes?
Bartholomew.
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Poznanski,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
President Malzahn.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion
All
to
right.
adjourn?
Oh, hi, hold
While
on.
you were on that.
Zach's not here.
Right, I know Zach's not here. We have a motion by Bartholomew to